Yeah, they're both started. I learned a trick, too. I could do this. And that way I could sync them up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because one of the hardest things I have to do is syncing up the cameras, because I got two cameras and the audio is separate. And that's kind of my biggest problem sometimes. I've sit there for a while and like make sure they're all lined up.
Oh, well, that's interesting. You can clap and make them sync.
Yeah, I saw that was a simple trick. Is you clap, and that way you have a point of reference to sync everything up. I was like, oh, that's simple enough. Why not? I think of that.
Yeah.
8 episodes ago.
Well, that's true.
Because I'm sitting there trying to look at people's mouths and seeing like a common word, like they say something with like a lot of like mouth movement, like mouth, and I could see like, okay, that's a word,
Yeah.
and so I could go off of that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I got Mr. Wesley Wells back in here again. He had to leave a little early last time, and we had some good conversation going on. I remember about your dad, which that was very interesting. I want to talk to you more about that.
Okay.
But I know we probably didn't get into a lot because you had a long career in Albany. Right. And I saw Chief Ambrose just retired.
Yes, he did.
And I've heard that name a bunch, but I don't think I've ever met him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think
okay.
Unless I just bumped into him.
I'm sure you've seen him on the scene.
Probably.
He worked at EMS, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. That might be where I've seen him before. Yeah. Did he work there for a long time, or?
Yeah, he was there almost 40 years. 39 years.
At Doherty, too?
He did it. No, he didn't work Doherty EMS now.
I thought you meant he worked Doherty EMS, too.
No, I just figured you've seen him on different calls.
Maybe, which I never worked Doherty EMS, but I'm sure I've seen him around.
Yeah.
But I might use you. I might get contact with him. He seems like I've always heard people say good things about him.
Yeah, he had a long career.
Yeah.
So, definitely somebody you go talk to.
Yeah, Jim, who I had in here before, or last person I had in here, I had met him before. Jim Bloodworth. I keep wanting to say True Blood, but that's a different person. but he spent like 40 years over in Columbus, and he did a lot.
Yeah, that's right. You were saying you were going to have him in here.
Yeah.
Last time I was here. Yeah.
Then I might try to get his son on, because his son evidently does a lot too. He's a SWAT medic with like GSP, which is interesting. And so, he worked with Philip with the tactical medic stuff. Unit, I can't remember the name of his company right now. Oh. But anyways, I got Mr. Wesley Wells back. You spent how many years at Albany? I didn't forgot.
33 and a half. 33
and a half. Yep. If you didn't hear the first part, that was just audio because I messed up the camera. But I'm glad he had to cut it short anyway, so I could get him back and get him on camera.
Yeah.
But this is Mr. Wesley Wells, retired as captain, but you were interim battalion chief for a while, which I thought for sure you were battalion chief, but I think you were just an interim battalion chief when I kind of left like Lee or whatever, when I had...
yeah, that's probably what it was. That's where I was at when you left.
When I was seeing you a lot.
Yeah.
All retired now.
Yes, finally.
Yeah. Have you picked up golf or anything? Are you just hanging out around the house?
No, the only thing I've actually picked up is going deep sea fishing.
Oh, man.
So I've been doing quite a bit of that over the last couple of summers, and I hope to do a lot more this summer.
Yeah.
If it works out.
I remember old Daniel Potter had his boat. He used to, when he retired, he was talking about he's going to go out a lot, do a lot more.
Yeah, I got a couple different ones to go with David Howe a lot. And I've been a couple times with Steve Hall.
Yeah.
He's another fireman that retired. So
there's another old fireman who's retired, and I saw him. He's retired from the Marine base, and I saw him my daughter's award ceremony at Worth County Elementary the other night, and he was talking about his boat, using his boat more. And I said, well, if you ever need somebody just to ride it around, they always say, the best boat to have is your friend's boat. So, if you need somebody to put some hours on it, I'll come borrow it.
Absolutely, it is. That's why I tell these guys, look, I don't mind helping you service your boat, do whatever it takes to help, maintain it and wash it and whatever else. Good God knows they're expensive.
Yeah, the only boat, I got my John boat out there with trolling motor. That's, It's not high maintenance, but I had one bass tracker. This was back in the day, and I had a 90 horsepower 2-stroke on it, and that thing loved gas. And I got to a point where I'd be going on the Flint fishing with my sister or whoever, and I was like, "This is costing too much. Let's go out here and go fishing." And I finally sold it. And those old 2-strokes are kind of cantankerous.
They were. I had a bass tracker with a 94-stroke. Now it just sits on gas. It barely used any, and it was a nice little boat, but I could only put 3 people in it, really, to go fishing or go do anything. And
yeah.
we like to ride as much as we like to do anything when we get on the lake.
Yeah.
So we ended up selling it. We bought a 22-foot pontoon.
See, that's what I wanted to do for a long time, was get like a 22-foot pontoon. Mm-hmm. Something small enough I could still fish off of, not one of the ginormous pontoons, but big enough I could have, 6, 8 people. Well, how many people can you put on yours?
I think it's 8 or 10. I really not certain.
I was thinking when I was looking at like the 20-foots, because I saw they made like the shortest ones were like 16, like little.
Yeah, but they're so small. It'd be hard to do anything on those.
Yeah,
ours is the 22-foot party bar, but you still fish off of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like the size I was looking at was like 20-foot, because you could still small enough you could kind of reasonably fish. Not like it's not a school bus, but you could have fun on it. Because my bass tracker was you could fit. Mine might have been 18-foot. It might have been 18 because I put 4 people on it, but it just wasn't comfortable. I mean, for a bunch of people, and that and it drank gas bad, but. There wasn't any shade. I didn't have any kind of canopy or anything on the back.
Well, I did put a bimini top on mine.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife's like, look, we got to do something. It is hot.
Yeah. You get bacon on there, and my wife's so fair-skinned, she's like, I'll fry.
Mine, too.
Yeah.
She's like, it's killing me. Even with long sleeves and a hat, she's like, I got to have some shade.
Yeah. That might be something doing maybe in the future. I know we go back and forth about campers or a boat or something, but shoot, we're so busy now. It's like we don't have time to use it, and I'm so scared of buying something and having a payment and it just sitting.
Right.
And that's what I don't want to do. Pay for something like I never use.
Well, that's what I told my wife the other day. We've been cutting up about a lot of stuff that we've accumulated over the years.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, we've got so much stuff I can barely do the maintenance on everything.
Yeah.
I said, we bought a toy for everything we like to do.
Yeah.
And now it's hard to keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talk about riding a lot. I remember I had some buddies that were into jet skis riding the Flint, like everybody. And they're like, oh, you need a jet ski, come ride with us. And I'm used to riding like 4-wheelers. I rode 4-wheelers a lot. So you got on 4-wheelers, and we just ride. You do a lot of riding.
Yes.
And so when I got a jet ski, I'm saying, okay, we're going to ride up down to Flint like all day. No. What it was, ride like 5 minutes to like a sandbar, sit there for like 2 hours, ride 5 minutes to another sandbar, like sit there for like an hour with people. And I'm like, this isn't that much fun to me.
Yeah, that's not the fun. The fun of jet ski, we had jet skis for a while, too. The fun of jet skis is taking them to a big lake. Yeah. And really riding them around. Yeah. Yeah. Which we had a blast doing that. Of course, we ended up getting tickets.
What'd you get tickets for?
Well, oddly enough, I was teaching, my wife had never ridden one.
Yeah.
So we were out there, and I was teaching her how to ride. We had 2 of them.
Yeah.
So what I do is I go up to her, and I would tell her, all right, try these maneuvers, do this. I'm going to show you on mine, and then you go do it. So I would get away from her and go do it out in the middle and then let her try it. And then after she did, she'd stop, and I'd go up to her, and we'd talk again, until she could get comfortable with it. And DNR come up behind me when I was easing up to her and had their blue lights on. She was looking at me. She said, DNR is behind you with blue lights on. I was like, what? So sure enough, they stopped us and told me that I was above idle speed within 100 feet of her. And I was like, are you serious? I said, I was barely easing up to her. I said, we know what the rules are. We're following them. And they're like, no, we've been watching y'all for a while. I said, if you've been watching us for a while, then you know I'm doing the right thing. And apparently they were just in a mood that day. And we got in an argument over what 100-foot was. And because we actually went over to the bank, and I told them, I said, well, tell me what 100-foot is. Tell me how far it is to that tree over there. And I said, no, you're wrong. And I told him how far it was, because laying hose off fire trucks all these years.
You got 100-foot hoses. You know that very well.
Yeah, you got 50 and 100. I mean, by 50-foot increments, you can just about call it. After doing it for so many years. And he was way off. And, man, that was one of the first times I ever got to see my wife, go off on somebody. And she went off on him because he was giving all this rant and rave about how dangerous the water was and how much terrible accidents they've seen and all that. And they had no idea what we did for a living at that point. And that's when my wife went off on them because they were going to write us tickets. She said, well, if you're writing us tickets anyway, then you're going to hear what I got to say. And she told him, she said, look, I'm a nurse. He's a first responder. Y'all ain't seen nothing. You know, how long you been doing this? He only been doing it 3 or 4 years. She said, you're still a baby. You haven't seen anything, you know, laid into him. But it was a pretty sad day that, you know, they were writing a ticket for
DNR, you'll catch them sometimes. I got a ticket when I was 15, not on the water, but for hunting over bait and not wearing orange when I was 15. And what had happened was, like, now baiting's legal all in Georgia. Right. But me and my dad, like, we had timberland, and we put out corn like August, September, and getting near gun season, like a few weeks, month before season, we just quit putting out corn, let it get ate up. And I remember it was opening day. I was sitting on this roadway stand. We had put out some corn down the roadway, and leaves had already started falling, like it was in the fall. You know, it's like whatever, third weekend in October. And someone comes walking down the roadway, and it's raining. Like, I'd been sitting up in this tree stand, ladder stand, and I had my orange on. Started raining. And it wasn't pouring. It was like a heavy drizzle, so I threw my camouflage poncho on over my orange because it started raining. And I see this person walking down the roadway with an orange on. I said, who the hell is this? And I realized it's a woman. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, it's DNR. Yeah. Then I said, okay. And like, she got down there to me and asked me to get down in the stand. And asked me if the rifle was loaded. And of course, I unloaded it before I got down. And I'm 15, so I'm a little, skittish. I'm a young guy. Course, and I'm like, what are you doing here? And she gets down. She goes, come with me down here. Or actually, first thing she asked me was, where's my orange? I said, I got it on under the poncho because it started raining. Yeah. She said, okay. I go down there to the roadway, and she kicks up the leaves, and at this point, they're sprouting corn. Yeah. And she said, you're hunting over bait. I said, hunting over bait? I said, isn't that like a food plot, basically, at this point? I was like, it's sprouting corn, like it's been there so long. No, you're hunting over bait. And I said, wow. Well, okay. And then she said, well, I also had to write a ticket for not wearing orange. I said, I got orange on, but it started raining in the stand, and I threw this poncho on. I guess I should have thrown my orange on over the poncho, but whatever. Yeah. It seemed kind of like a gray area kid. I'm like, okay, you were wearing your orange, it just started raining, got it. I mean, I would have put the orange on before I walked out, but whatever. By the letter of the law, I was in violation of that, but I just thought that was kind of like common sense. So I got a ticket for that and no orange, and we went back up to camp, and my dad was up there, or he'd come back to camp, and we actually went to the judge or whatever, because my dad took this is back in the day, took his old Polaroid camera and took pictures of the corn when, like, this is what she's saying, right. And went to the court, and the judge threw out the bait charge, but kept the orange because he was like, yeah, that's kind of ridiculous, like, it's sprouting, that's not fresh. Yeah. But yeah, I guess DNR then, I guess she was in a mood or whatever. I was like, this is...
that was all we could say, was they were just in a mood that day. And, my wife's like, they probably argued with their wife that day, and they couldn't stand the fact of watching us out there enjoying each other, having fun, And I was like, that's just ridiculous. But
maybe. I mean, it's like anything. I've had law enforcement just, get pulled over or something. You have people that are very understanding, and then you got some people that you can just tell they're having a bad day. And it's like, I don't really have much to say to you. I know it ain't going to matter. I know you're having a bad day. Yep. Yeah.
So what you going to do? Let's go on.
Yeah. I always try to, I'm always polite, because most of the I would say 99% of the time, it's not going to do you any good to get pissed off.
Well, that's certainly not going to help you to argue with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like with that incident, we weren't really arguing with them until...
Yeah, he's gonna write.
They made it clear that they were writing us tickets, period. And then it was like, well, it's on now. Then, tell me the distance and show me this. And that's when we more or less just told them that they were crazy.
Yeah. Back before they legalized baiting, they'd be hard on it. My dad, he lived up north above Macon, and they had 10 acres, 12 acres, it's his house, and he put out a feeder in the backyard. And it was, I don't know, it was probably 30, 40, 50 yards from the property line. But there was like 200 acres behind it people hunting. And used to be, the law was that you couldn't hunt I think it was within like sight of the corn feeder or within like 200 yards or 300 yards, even out of sight.
Yeah.
And there was like a stipulation, something about like if there's a game, you can't be hunting on a game trail that goes from a feeder pasture thing or something. I don't know, they had all kind of ways.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been into hunting.
Yeah. And they tried to write my dad a ticket for his feeder. It's like, I'm not even hunting over it. Well, it's impeding these guys over here. They can't hunt part of their property because your feeder is too close to one of their stands. And my dad's like, that's not my problem. I have my corn on my property.
This is my property.
Yeah, he's like, I have it out behind the house here, behind my kitchen window, because I like seeing the deer come up. Yeah. And they tried to write him a ticket because his feeder was too close to the property line and it was too close to one of the guys' stands. Which I don't know why they came out and found that. Maybe they're trying to get them and realize the corn wasn't on their property. Yeah. But I was like, what?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. My dad was like, you need to go on. He's like, my dad was like, you're just like a meter made of the woods.
Yeah. See, my opinion is I disagree with the authority that DNR has.
They do have a lot in Georgia.
Personally, I have a disagreement with it. If it's your personal land, I think you should be able to do what you want on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that it should be up to them. I mean, if you want to kill off all the deer on your property, that's your business. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing being like the wildlife actually belongs to like the public, Yeah. And so like it's a public resource, even though it's on your land. It's just a transient public resource. And I get the managing of it, but what I never liked, or just I guess like logically didn't make sense to me, and I understand how difficult it would be to do it this way. Was like, say you have 10 acres, or I got 3 acres here. Mm-hmm. I have my license, and I can shoot 12 deer a year. I can shoot 10 does and 2 bucks. But if you had 2,000, if I had 2,000 acres, I could still shoot 10 does, 2 bucks.
Right.
Like, it's like, so you mean to tell me the guy on 2 acres can shoot just as many deer as the guy on 2,000? Yeah. Which I guess, you'd probably have more people hunting it, but I was like, it seems like it would make more sense, like, per land resource you'd have a thing. But I know Georgia's so overpopulated with deer, they're not worried.
I guess you go back and think of it kind of the way you were explaining it to me was in their management system, all they can do is say, by the number of licensed hunters we got, this is the numbers we need to assign to.
And I understand the extreme difficulty in trying to regulate tags per like a land parcel. Right. But it always, just on the surface, I was like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But it's not like Georgia's running out of deer,
That's like, I don't think it's right that they can just come on your property and start trying to find something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like standard police. They don't get to walk up and knock on your door and say, hey, we just want to check and see if you might be doing something wrong.
Well, and that's like that first time I got a ticket. My dad asked her, like, why'd you come out here on opening day anyways? And she said there was a time, probably back in August, September before then, that she'd walked up there, saw our truck parked there and trailer. We were down in the woods doing whatever to the property, and she found some pieces of corn on the trailer. And so that gave her, indication that we were probably baiting. She was going to come back on opening day. I was like, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but okay.
There again, they're coming on your property and looking for something wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, I just think that's a bit of an invasion. Now, if they had gotten a report from somebody, hey, I can tell you these people on this property hunting overbait, whatever, and they come to investigate. And that's no different than them getting a call to your property saying, hey, I saw a vehicle matching the description of whatever that you're looking for at this house. And
I know it was when I was a lot younger, my dad used to have more hunting land with food plots and stuff. Mm-hmm. And hunting was his passion. I mean, I don't know. You haven't been inside my house. I mean, I don't think you have. I have all kind of deer mounts in there. A bunch of mine, a bunch of my dad's. I had to give away a bunch when he passed away because I never room my house for him. I probably got, how many I got in there? Probably 15, 20 mounts in the house. And I had to give away a bunch too. And that's not just all the horns. He's been hunting since 1965 every year. Yeah. And that was like his passion. That was his thing, was deer hunting. And so he was very good at it. Mm-hmm. And he had some guys that were basically jealous of how good a hunter is because he always shot, a good buck or two every year. I mean, he's got a bunch. And so they would call DNR and say, "Oh, I think this guy's hunting over bait, or doing illegal stuff." And he said there was just an aggravation. They'd be coming out and to his land that had the food plots. He's like, "I don't have even any corn out here. It's all food plots."
Yeah.
And they were saying that he was hunting over bait, and so because they're like calling in, you know, it was an aggravation. He said it'd been ruining a lot of my hunts. He said he's come walking up and he's like, "What?" He's like, "He just
hunts over then."
Yeah. And he said it got so aggravating. Yeah. But he said it was basically figured it was like the neighboring property or whatever, that it was guys that whatever. Yeah, but either way, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I think the DNR officers then were pretty cool. He never got a ticket, or he wouldn't do anything wrong to get a ticket. But he said they call all the time, every year. He said at one point, you know, the DNR was like, "Hey, I'm back again," you know, but whatever, we're just checking it out. But then again, I don't know how many times they didn't actually come see him, because I'm sure they got a bunch of calls or whatever. But whatever. Yeah,
I went hunting with the time my best friend Mike Collins. I don't know if you remember hearing the name.
Mm-mm.
He got killed in an auto accident back in 2001.
Oh, yeah, that's before I came down here. Well, no, yeah.
We were best friends since we were 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have been best friends basically our whole life. And he died in an accident, but I used to go deer hunting with him some.
Mm-hmm.
He was big into it, and I'd go every now and then with him.
Yeah.
But after he passed, I haven't been back since then.
Yeah, I don't hunt near as much as I did with my dad. I hunt here on my little property, you know, and I usually shoot like a doe, or, well, probably 1, maybe 2 deer a year. But I don't hunt anything like, you know, did my dad. My dad would be all into it, you know. So I kind of, you know, I got 2 daughters, so it's not like they particularly want to hunt or have more motivation, you know. Yeah. So, which, I mean, they could. I've took my oldest hunt with me, but, you know, they don't have
the passion for
No, they don't have the passion, so it's hard to have for me, it's hard to have, now with kids, to have a passion that at least my kids are somewhat interested in, because I feel like I'm taking away family time.
Yeah, you have to kind of play into whatever they're into now.
Yeah.
That's the point of life you're at. You know, we've already been there where your life becomes what the kids are into for a big part of their life, really.
Yeah. Which that's why we camp so much, or like camping, because my oldest, and my youngest, both like camping. Mm-hmm. So I got a bunch of camping stuff, which is fine with me. I like camping and fishing.
We love it. Yeah, we love camping.
Yeah.
We enjoy it.
We went up to, you know where High Falls State Park is up there? We went up there back in the spring, a month or 2 ago, and we rented a yurt, which I've never done before. Yeah. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, we stayed in one at Blackshear up here.
Yeah.
We stayed in one of their little things. We wanted to do it up in Pigeon Forge. And we just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Go up there and camp. We didn't go this past fall, but normally we go every fall and camp in Pigeon Forge or whatever, and go up to Gatlinburg. My wife loves to trout fish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she loves fly fishing.
And
I ended up having to buy a rope because she wanted to pull over the little pullouts there in Gatlinburg, going up, you know, the Smoky Mountains. She wants to pull off every pull-off where she sees the stream where she thinks she can get to it.
Yeah.
And I'll have to tie the rope off to a tree, and we go down the bank so that we can use the rope to get back up. But I had to stop her. She would start down the stream and hopping all the boulders and everything, just fishing away. She just absolutely loves it.
I fly fished some when I was a kid, but it was, you know, I didn't, which I grew up above Atlanta, but it was always just fly fishing for like brim and whatever in a pond. My dad had fly rods, so I was playing around with it.
Yeah.
And but I never did any trout fishing with it or anything. Which down here, now we're in South Georgia, it ain't like we can do a lot of that down here.
No, that's just it. I mean, we have to go up north. And matter of fact, Heather was telling me the other day, she said, I want to go fishing. I haven't been trout fishing this year. I really want to go.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get to go soon. But
yeah. That'd be a lot of fun.
She loves it.
We go usually at least twice a year, you know, because we do tent camping. And I got all my big tents. Like I basically have yurts now, like they're the big canvas tents.
Yeah.
Because I got tired of the whatever they are, polyethylene, whatever the regular tent stuff, like sweating, condensating. And those canvas ones don't sweat.
Oh, really?
And they're really easier to put up to me because I just put a center pole up and just stake them out. So it's like a big teepee. And I can roll up the sides. And now they're heavier. Like I wouldn't be hauling that thing a half mile through the woods.
Right. Yeah.
But us pulled out of the car. Said I have a big one that's 20 foot, and that thing's got to weigh 80 pounds.
Good grief!
Because it's 20 foot circle. I mean, it's like and it's 10 foot tall, so it's like a little Taj Mahal.
That is.
That thing's nice when you get set up, but yeah, you don't want to haul it nowhere. You drag it on the trailer, drag it off.
We started out like that. Well, not doing a yurt, but we started out tent camping.
Yeah.
And we've gone through all the phases now of camping. Went through the tents, the pop-up, the pull-behinds, fifth wheels, drivables. And, of course, now we're in a Class C drivable.
Well, see, we had, when me and my wife first met, and I used to ride fours all the time, I had a slide-in camper for my old diesel. Yeah. And I loved that thing because a slide-in pop-up. So you compress it down, pop it up, and so that way it wasn't too heavy, and didn't have a lot of drag. And I love that thing because it was so easy. Back under it, set it in the truck, put it down, had nice AC, and for me and her, it was perfect. Then we got kids, and we wound up getting big as, I think it was like a 30-foot fifth wheel, and it was nice, but it had like 2 slides, but it was just so big, it wasn't fun to take anywhere unless you were staying a long time, because to go somewhere for like 2 days and set it up, it was not a joy. And driving it down 75 and semi passed me, and I was like, oh man, this is, or get behind a semi and all that wind, and even with a diesel dually, it's it'd be doing some stuff.
Oh yeah, well that's like the fifth wheel that we have. We didn't drag it around to camp in it. She actually lived in it during the week in Dublin when she first started her MP career. She worked in Dublin for a little while, so we went and put the fifth wheel up, set it up there. Yeah. So basically it was a second home.
Yeah.
And it worked great, honestly, for a second home.
Yeah.
It was nice. But.
Yeah, I've talked to the wife. If we ever do it again, we're probably just going to get a smaller, just travel trailer with like bunk beds or something in the back. That's reasonable. Yeah. Maybe like a 26-foot or something.
To me, that's about the perfect size.
Yeah. And I'll get a brand new one.
Yeah.
With a warranty, and I have to put it on and everything up to keep it in good shape, which I don't have a place to park one that big now.
And that is the key to the life of an RV, is keeping it under a shelter.
Yeah, I'll never own another one till I get a shelter I can park it under to keep that roof in good shape and everything. Because I don't want to. I had that fifth wheel when I bought it. It had a leak, and I bought it for cheap with a leak, and I had to replace the whole front wall of it. Oh gosh! And you realize those things aren't built of heavy-duty materials.
No, they're not.
Because they got to be light.
Yep. No, they're not. But, yeah, definitely have a covered awning. Mine's under a pole barn. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have anything that high. My shed area down there is, unless I got a pop-up. But it's not that tall. It's like 6.5 foot tall, so it's not going to fit. It might be 7 down there. Yeah. I don't know. I know my dad's old truck, which is lifted, it just barely fits under it. So maybe it's 7 foot. I've never actually measured it. It's on dirt, so whatever. But anyways, I remember one of the last things we talked about was your dad, and he started. I'm trying to remember, like 58 or something like that. He started at Albany.
I honestly do not know exactly. Well, I can almost track it backwards. He left in the early 70s. I'm gonna say he left the fire department probably in. Well, I don't know, maybe 75, 76 is when he left Albany. He'd been there 16 years, so that puts him starting around 1960.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when he left in the 70s, had they started using SCBAs at that point? No. I was about to say, because it was it late 70s, 80s when they started doing SCBAs?
It was actually in the late 80s.
Oh, wow.
When Albany and all actually started using SCBAs.
Yeah.
They hadn't been using them very long when I got there in 90.
Oh, wow.
Matter of fact, a lot of them were still in boxes on the truck. They weren't mounted. The new trucks they were getting in had them mounted. But a lot of the old trucks, they were still in boxes, and you slide them out of the Were those the old elephant trunks they talked about? Old elephant truck, really heavy steel tanks.
Yeah.
SCBAs, yeah.
I remember seeing them one of those when I was at the fire department, and they're like, yeah, this is what they used to use. Like, oh, wow. They're like, yeah, these things get hung on everything.
Yes, they did. That elephant trunk was a pain.
Yeah.
But it was also convenient.
Yeah.
Because if you run out of air inside a structure fire or whatever, as long as it wasn't a really toxic environment, you could take that elephant truck and unscrew it and shove it inside your coat between the snaps and the buttons. Back then they didn't all zip.
Yeah.
You just had snaps and buttons. Mm-hmm. And you could slide it in between and push it way down in there where it'd filter the smoke.
Huh. And
you wasn't the best breathing, but it would get you out.
Yeah. Better than breathing, though.
Yeah, it's better than breathing the smoke. Out there and having to unhook and suck the smoke through it. But they actually work decent like that.
So those first ones like that, I'm assuming they didn't have any pass device or anything?
No.
Okay. I figured they wouldn't.
No.
They have any kind of alarms or anything for like low air?
Well, low air alarm is all it had, but there was no pass device or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's why when the pass devices come out, which I say that, I want to say that when the pass devices come out, it's why people had so much of a hard time with them constantly going off because they weren't accustomed to realizing you had to shake them every now and then. If you were just standing there holding the hose, you weren't moving enough to shake them and keep them active, and they would go in alarm. And then it got to a point, unfortunately, later in my career where it was frustrating that people were ignoring the alarms. They went off so much that people just grew complacent with it and didn't even pay attention. But as a safety officer, if I'm outside a structure and I hear a pass device going off, now I have to find out why a pass device is going off.
Yeah.
Because it could be a down firefighter. So
I remember always doing training. You'd be sitting around talking, and somebody's pass start beeping, and everybody look at each other, and somebody's slapping somebody's tank. Move.
Yeah.
Move.
Shake.
Yeah, shake. Or if you had a house fire and swapped out crews, somebody came in and set their pack down and staging and didn't turn the pass off, so you got one or two of them there going, and you're over there trying to figure out what's going on. Oh, you didn't bleed all your air off. That's why it didn't turn off.
Didn't bleed it off and shut it off.
Mm-hmm. So. And I always remember those. I just remember all the training, everybody standing around and people slapping each other's tanks.
Yep.
Move.
Yep.
Move.
Did that for years.
I didn't even think about that, though, people kind of getting immune to the sound.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense, but
they
never...
just don't even pay attention. You have to tell them, it's yours, move.
Yeah.
Turn it off. But, yeah, it got bad there for a while.
Like, early on, like, fire department, I don't know if your dad ever talked about it, like, did they have much of an accountability system or anything for, like, fires?
Nothing more than they...
Where's Bob?
Yeah, that's it. Really, that was all there was to it. Even when I started, there really wasn't a lot of accountability when I started. Mm-hmm. It was a few years later when they started to realize, because of different accidents, things happening, that they were going to have to do something to keep up with people on scene.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was just you reported to your officer and that was it.
Yeah.
But quite often, your officer would tell you to go do something. You go do it before you get back to him. Another officer would grab you and say, hey, go do this. Well, my officer doesn't know. Well, then your officer would be mad at you because you didn't come back and tell him. It was, well, this other captain told me to do this. What was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And
well, this might be a dumb question, but like back in your father's day, I mean, I know they had radios, but did they have like portables they could take into the houses or anything? Or was that too early on?
Yeah, it was too early on.
Yeah,
it was too early. They were lucky to have even one. Matter of fact, even when I started, there was only one radio on the truck, one handheld, and that was the officers.
Yeah.
Nobody else we didn't have radios.
Yeah.
We went in, and you'd hear them shout at you through the door, or they come to the room next to you through the window that was broken out and holler at you that way.
I was about to say, how do you get communications?
Yeah, that was it. That was the only way you communicated. The other way was they would tell John, hey, run in there and tell Wesley this. And he'd run in there behind you and, hey, Captain said so-and-so. Going back there further to the right, it's still on fire.
Oh, wow. So you really couldn't do any really well-coordinated attacks or anything?
No, but what it did is I feel like then it made you a better firefighter because you were really hyper-vigilant and aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
because you didn't have somebody outside that was watching that was going to radio and tell you, hey, you got fire coming out of the eaves on the B side of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were on your own. You had to go find it, put it out, and you were really paying attention. You would do the stop and listen quite often, where you stop. You say, all right, everybody stop. On 3, hold your breath. And everybody stop breathing because, you know, those air packs were...
Yeah.
You know, a lot of noise. And you stop, hold your breath for a second, and listen for the crackling and popping to figure out which way you need to go to find more fire.
Huh. I mean, that makes sense. I never heard that, but that does...
Yeah.
I mean, my time was well after that, you know, so... Now, when without the radios, did they do a lot of the horn blast stuff, like for like half a tank and evac the structure and everything?
Yeah, you had the signals that they would use back then. You know, of course, the long blast is always get out. Yeah. You know, but...
I assume that's where a lot of that came from. I never fully asked, but I assumed it was from, you know, I don't want to say tradition, but the I guess, base method of any other communication. This is it, and the most fastest way is the horn blast. And before radios, this is what they did. So it's kind of what I assumed, but I never really truly asked.
Luckily, they're still doing it. Even today.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to.
And they hold it. I do too, because quite often I've seen a number of times where you get inside and your radio gets swapped to a different channel.
Yeah,
just by movement or inadvertently or whatever, it gets moved to another channel. Another bank, or even the volume just turned down where you don't hear the radio.
Well, I imagine, too, you get in some of these, like, steel roof buildings and stuff now. I imagine some of the service can be cruddy.
Yeah, matter of fact, you can go in the hospital and some of these other big commercial buildings, and they'll just go to trunking until you out of range.
Yeah.
And until you're out of range, you're not getting any signal. Matter of fact, we activated the RIT team on a house fire one day. We had a crew that went in, and we kept trying to radio them to get a status update because we weren't seeing much change in the conditions of the fire.
Yeah.
And so we kept trying to radio them for a status update. Are y'all moving? Have you found the seeds of fire? Anything like that? And we couldn't get them to respond. And the protocol, the SOP was after 3 attempts, if they don't answer, you activate RIT and you send the rescue team for them.
Yeah.
So we actually did that on the scene one day, and that was the cause of the problem, was their radio had changed channels.
Yeah.
And they weren't hearing us calling radio to them. So the RIT team had to go in there and find them and reestablish their communications.
Now, I know everything now, or most everything now, or at least if they're not going, if they're not 800 now, they're going to most places are going to the 800s. Is that kind of the downfall of that, where like VHF might pick up better in those, or do you think they both be cruddy?
They will both be cruddy.
Okay.
I think the new 800 tracking system is a really good system.
I mean, it's crystal clear as long as you have service. Yeah.
It works really good. And like I said, you still have talk around.
Yeah.
Even though those...
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
You know, and a lot of people forget about that. They just don't realize that channel's there and available for making it basically a straight walkie-talkie. The only problem is it doesn't beep at you to tell you that it's reached the tower. You know, you always key up, what they call key up, listen for the beep, and then talk. Yeah. Well, on talk around, there is no beep because it's not reaching as high.
Yeah, it's not hitting a repeater, yeah.
Right. So it's just going straight radio to radio. So it's like an old true walkie-talkie, you know, that we played with as kids. But they work great like that.
Yeah, we had, well, you know, air, where I work in the air, probably like every place, you know, ours, we have radios and repeaters, and you can tell when there's a new dispatcher, you know, which we got a lot of the same ones, recognized voices, but you get a new one, they'll start talking, and you miss the first 2 words, and like, you know, I had to one, it was a while back, I had to call them, because I think we were on standby or something. I was like, hey, you got to key up and wait a second. I said, we were missing like the first 2 words. You know, I know you're excited, but you got to wait on that repeater.
Yeah, you got to key up, wait for the beat, and then talk.
Yeah, people get excited, and it's just, I mean, you forget about it. I mean, I think I'm ingrained. I probably wait too long now. I key it up, and then I wait, and I'm like, hey, you know.
Yeah.
But early on, everybody does it. You get excited.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
People still do it when they get excited.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they grab that radio and they start talking and way too quick. But
yeah, which I talk fast anyways. I had
yeah.
cognizant of that.
Mm-hmm. But back then, they basically everything is done. I guess you could say just really old school.
Yeah, analog.
Very little technology, but the advantage that they had back then. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but the advantage back in those years was that most things that were on fire in the house were all natural materials.
Mm-hmm.
It was standard wood and cotton-based materials for the most part. Of course, it's hard getting some polyesters and things, but
yeah,
they didn't have near the synthetic materials that are out today.
Mm-hmm.
They are so full of chemicals and give all such toxic chemicals. So while they were breathing smoke, it was more or less like the smoke you get off of a trash pile of leaves and wood burning.
Yeah,
more so than the chemical smoke that we have now. So they did have that advantage.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't wearing air packs, wasn't the smartest thing in the world. It's like everything. We don't realize how dangerous things are until we get enough people dying from cancer or whatever the cause may be, and then they look back and say, okay, we got to make a change.
Well, I know the importance they made on us of washing turnout gear after major like house fires and stuff, because all the synthetics and stuff there now and all the chemicals. You need to wash your gear, and you probably need to take a shower too.
Yes.
Like rinse off.
Well, that's, to me, I think that was the... Now, of course, if you went to a bad fire and you come back and you were absolutely smutty and dirty, we always would take a shower just because you couldn't stand yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
But in all reality, any fire that you go to and you get smoke on you, you should go back and take a shower and wash it off. And they've started going to that now where trucks are even allowed to stay out of service after a call to go back and take a shower, if they need to. And I'm glad that we started doing that. I'm glad we got into mandatory washing of turnouts. I used to wash mine pretty regular anyway when I went to a fire, just because I didn't like the way they smelled when I put them back on.
Especially you come back the next shift and you hadn't washed them, you're like, gosh, these things are terrible.
Between the sweat and the smoke, it's awful. So I usually wash mine pretty regular anyway. Unfortunately, as you wash them, you also wash off some of the protective qualities.
Yeah.
So, you launder them too much and you break them down. And that's a disadvantage to it. But we had people that were never doing it. And we still had people that didn't want to wash their helmets.
Oh, yeah, they want to keep them.
They see it as a sign of heroism or war symbol or something. I don't quite understand it for myself, because I wanted mine looking pretty. I'd rather have a pretty helmet, and even though it may have been in all kind of stuff, when I got all sooted up, smutted up, I went back and washed it. And the biggest thing is that's going on your head.
Yeah.
And your hood and your head is where you're going to get the most absorption of everything going directly into your body and your brain, everything. And it's like I never understood wanting a dirty helmet.
Well, that was the thing too, and I don't want to say it was prevalent, but I remember guys that training burns, whatever, they like to have their melt their shield, whatever. Yeah, we got it so hot, shield melted, and I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not my goal. Was to stick my head up in something that hot.
I got into quite a few. I guess you would call them debates.
Yeah.
I'd rather not call them arguments. But I got in several debates with people about that. Is, look at my helmet. I've been in some really bad stuff. And I was like, well, if you did that in an actual fire and you went in to save somebody, good deal.
Yeah, that's one thing.
But when you went to a flashover simulator and you damaged your gear, I used to get in arguments with them or debates, because I would tell them the department should make you pay for and replace that gear because you damaged it when it shouldn't have gotten damaged. And I actually got into it with a couple of instructors for those things, and they're like, well, that's the whole point, is to get in there and show them that. I said, well, then you should have gear that could be disposed of.
Yeah.
For them to wear in there. I said, you shouldn't be taking good gear and damaging it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're getting things to that hot in there anyway, you're not making a point to them. You should tell them, when you get to what you feel right now, it should not be any hotter than this.
Yeah.
And if it is, you need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Or vent. One or the other. And I just disagree with that training process and that mentality that we take you in there and we get you that hot and we destroy your gear.
Yeah.
Because bottom line is, think about it. Brad, if that helmet got that hot and melted, what is that doing to the rest of it?
Yeah.
And should any gear fail,
I got to think it's got to be degrading some of the other materials.
Oh, it definitely, yeah. Anytime you get it that hot, when you look at a hood and you can see basically charring on a hood, you can see the outline of the helmet and the coat against the hood. Mm-hmm. That hood's no good.
Yeah,
it's lost its integrity.
Well, that's the thing too. A lot of not a lot. I hate generalizing too much, but there are these people, especially in the training burns, wearing double hoods and stuff to protect from the heat. And I get it if you're an instructor and you're trying to get it that hot to protect yourself because you got to be in there longer.
Or if you got to stay a long time.
Yeah. But but I remember doing our training burns, and I love doing the set tees.
Yes,
and if anybody is going through any kind of volunteer program or starting off, a set tee is a great thing just to sit in for information, just to see how fast a fire can start, how fast it can grow in the heat. But I always remember this because I thought it was the craziest thing. Was we had a burn building, took a couch in there, and they said, all right, we're going to simulate a house fire starting. And they took the little snack bag of Lay's potato chips, and I was like, what are they doing with that? And threw it on the couch and lit the corner of the bag, and I was like, they're going to light the chips? And they're like, that is solid grease. And they lit that chip bag, and and then the polyester, couch, like all of them now, that thing just, and doubles, every 4 minutes? Fire doubles in size? Or 3?
Actually, a fire doubles in size every 60 seconds.
Oh. Whew. But I remember that couch just went up, and then they had some pallets or whatever around it to, to form substantial heat. But they talked to us, you're going to look at the layering. Here's smoke building up. Here's your thermal layer. So, all right, we're going to sit you down right here, and then feel the bees on your neck. And now we're going to get you down low. And now they would be like, all right, I can't remember the temps, but they're like, all right, you're here. Now I want you to raise up a little bit and feel the difference in the thermal layer. And it was so interesting, it's great info for young firefighters, but just to know that knowledge.
Watch, the fire gases roll up and then train across the ceiling. And watch the flames roll out through the fire gases, and trying to teach them how to back that off, to understand that's not where you're fighting the fire at. If you're crawling in, especially if you're searching, you want to crawl up to where it's doing that, because you got to search the closest to the fire first, and then work your way backwards out.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing you want to do is go in there and create a bunch of steam and basically cook somebody that you might could save.
Oh yeah.
So you would teach people how to watch the entrainment across the ceilings and how they could do a very tiny short burst right up there back to where that was coming from. And if you would do a tiny burst, you would actually watch all of that retract across the ceiling. It was the neatest thing in the world to teach people.
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember, too, they're like, all right, we're going to hit the base of the fire and show you how bad the steam can be and why you don't want to do this. And I remember them hitting that, and they told us, get down low and hit it. And as soon as I did that and that steam came out in there, you're like, oh. This is terrible. Which they didn't do. It was just enough to get you a taste of why you don't want to do that.
Exactly.
And all that was so interesting. I'd love to go back and just sit in on set T, because that was so interesting to me.
I'll be honest. I enjoyed teaching that.
Yeah.
I mean, I got into a point in my career where I enjoyed teaching. It was always fun to me to take what you had learned, both out of the books and through practical experience, and be able to teach new people.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. That's something I really wouldn't mind doing again.
Yeah.
To some degree, is teaching like that, because I enjoy it. Especially going in classroom. I love teaching drafting.
Yeah.
I like to teach the theory behind drafting.
Yeah.
And all the the science behind how it happens. And it's fun when you teach somebody and you see the light come on.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can relate it to them and get them to understand how pressure works and explain to them, like, from a medic standpoint of how the pump works basically like your lungs do.
Yeah.
You create a negative pressure in the pump, same way you create a negative pressure for your intercostal muscles and all in your lungs. And the air is actually pushed into your lungs. It's not sucked into your lungs. It's pushed into your lungs from the pressure outside.
Yeah.
And a fire pump works the same way.
It was I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about do you know what an Impella device is for, like, somebody's heart? Like an Impella device is basically called that because it's got, sorry, I got to clear my throat. It's got a device like a small impeller, just like an impeller on a fire engine pump. That helps circulate blood. So you got somebody post heart surgery, whatever, heart attack, and they've put one of those in. It just helps give them pressure, circulate blood flow to keep them alive. So it's basically a small impeller in there, and it's just got a little pipe. And I said, all firemen will understand this device better than you think. I said, and they're like, what are you talking about? I said, because this right here is a fire engine pump in somebody's chest. And I said, I guarantee you tell any fireman, because they're talking about the problems of it, and you'll understand this, like from a cavitation aspect or whatever. So, like, one of the problems being, like, if you turn it up, sometimes you might not have enough volume to be able to get to it to create the pressure you want. So, if you're an engineer, took any kind of fire pump classes, you'll understand it. And I said every firefighter would understand this device completely. And I said it was
if they truly understand.
Yeah.
They're pumping. I feel like sometimes today they're teaching them how to pass the test, which is just you pull these knobs and you do these things and you create these pressures.
Yeah.
And that's all they're looking for. They're not going in the way we used to and teaching the difference of the metals that the pump's made out of and why you have an anode inside the fire pump to for the electrolysis to eat on the anode just like you do a water heater in the house or anything else, and teaching them the concept of the theory behind how the pump actually works. Mm-hmm. And once you understand that, anybody that went through that would be all over what they're talking about because they know exactly what you mean.
It helped me when I first started doing pump classes, and they were teaching me, being like a relief driver, was they used to have an exposed front mount engine, and so you could see all the pipes going in and like where they came from and how like that put it all together to me, being able to see how that worked because most, engines, mid-mount engines, it's all covered up
behind the panel.
Yeah, you might be able to flip a side panel up and look in there, but it's not really clear,
Right.
And that helped me a lot seeing that front mount, even though it was on a smaller scale. It's like, all right, which I guess even like a brush truck could give you an idea, but that front mount,
the front mount really did show it to you. I remember Lee County having them.
Yeah.
And you could sit there and look at every part of it. You knew exactly what was going on.
Well, see, like when I was in Americas, too, they had old Engine 3, which was an old analog open cab mid-mount walkthrough pump panel. Yeah. And so when you had it, you could sit there and you had to pull levers and you could see all the gauges. Nothing was digital. So like, all right, this is the relief valve. You had to manually go set the relief valve, then turn it up. And so if you run the pump, you could see all those gauges and how everything worked.
And the old changeover valves.
Yeah. And like it was just interesting to see all that, and I think that helped me a lot too, seeing all that compared to where the newer ones where you just hit a preset or whatever. Here's the relief valve pressure you want it to be, pump, 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 pump.
Yeah, the old style pumps where you had the 2-stage pumps, where you had to go from pressure to volume. When you exceeded half the rated capacity to pump, you'd go to volume, and you had to cut the pressure down to 50 psi. Yeah, and work your changeover valve to actually move valves in there to change the way the water routed between going from one impeller into the next, into going to both impellers at the same time for the volume.
Yeah. Again, I remember the GPMs, and then you had the pressure, and then depending on what you were running, you could pull too much off the line from the tank, and then you'd have to open up like if you had a hydrant hooked up, you could open up both of those fills to give it more flow. Right. So you get more GPMs out of it, and all that was so interesting. And you had to pull handle. You just creep this one down.
Yes.
And that was so helpful. I mean, I don't know if they still have those. I feel like that needs to be just a almost like a simulator on a trailer for people.
Unfortunately, now everything's run by those pressure governors.
Yeah.
And now you get people that are sitting there trying to flow too much and don't have the right intake pressures, the right intake for what they're trying to flow, and they're trying to outrun it, capitating it, and the trucks start just fluctuating heavily in RPMs and everything else. And it's hard to get people to understand, well, you're in pressure mode. It can't maintain the pressure the way you want it to. So the only way that you temporarily correct that while you fix your problem is you go out of pressure mode into RPM mode. And now the truck's just going to run a steady RPMs.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's going on the hose, it's going to run a steady RPM. So at least you don't have these huge pressure variances on the firefighter's end, on the nozzle. And then you correct what you got going on by your gauges.
Yeah.
But that's hard to teach people.
Yeah. That front mount, those are the best things to me. Or if you have some kind of exposed piping system like that to show them how the pump works, to put it all together. Because you can see it on paper all the time, but to me, it didn't put it together until I saw that front mount.
Yeah.
But
I got an impeller out of an old vacuum.
Oh, yeah?
And just a little small impeller, probably a little 4-inch impeller out of a vacuum. And I used to use it to teach what an impeller looked like and how it actually worked. Because you can look at a picture of them in a book all you want.
Yeah.
And you're trying to say the water goes in there and comes out this way. But when you could actually physically look at the vanes moving within the housing and see how it would work, then it makes a lot more sense to people.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. Mine, sorry, I'm double checking, making sure my things are recording. Yeah. I'm bleary now ever since the last time. I saw it say about to start recording, but I was like, all right, make sure there.
Yeah.
But, I know what I was going to tell you a second ago. You're talking about drafting. I was kind of doing showing my daughter some drafting. I was cleaning out our pool, draining it. We're going to it's filling back up right now. But, our yard back here is kind of on a slope, so I threw some extra hoses in there to drain it. We just got an above ground pool. I did not. Yeah. I don't like pools, to be honest. I grew up being the pool boy. I did not want another in-ground pool after being the pool boy for my whole life.
Well, we just got one.
But I showed my daughter. I said, all right, I'm going to teach you something about like physics and water.
Yeah.
And so I put the hoses over there at the pool, and I had another garden hose, and I filled up the hoses, and I was filling them up with water. I said, now watch this. And as soon as I filled them with water, stuck it down in the pool, did another one, stuck it down in the pool. I said, now we'll go down here to the other ends down in the yard, these 50-foot hoses. And I said, how do you think this water's still coming out? And she said, well, you put water in it. I said, well, no, keep looking. I said, there's still going water. I said, what do you think's happening? She goes, I don't know. I said, well, see, the bottom end of this hose is lower than the bottom of the pool. Right. I said, so when I filled this thing up with water, and I said, and then I stuck it in the pool, I said, that water in it's going to want to drain out. And I said, so the gravity's pulling that water, and it's going to pull a suction on the other end of the hose because it's got to drain that out. And what it's going to do is keep pulling the water out of the pool. Yeah. I said, so that's how you drain something. I said, even though it's going up and over the pool, this end is lower than that, and all this water that was in the line lower than the pool is pulling that down, forcing more water up. And she was like, I was like, there's your little physics lesson for the day. So I was kind of drafting principle with my daughter yesterday.
It is, and it is interesting to go through those principles with them and get them to understand that. The same thing with a straw. You used to tell people, you take a straw and you suck up in a straw and you plug it. That'll stay there. I said, same way with the prime on a pump. If you draw the prime on the pump, all your valves are working right, and you close it off, that prime's still there. But if it gets any air, you lose all your prime.
It was interesting to me when, we used to prime pumps, test them, just doing the daily checks. When we go draft, and, I think we had to do something that was a higher draft. It might have been like 8 or 10 foot or something. Yeah. And the engineer I had, he said, all right, he said, this ain't going to prime. He said, it ain't going to pull this all the way up this high. He said, what can we do? I said, I don't know. He said, well, we do open the tank, flood the pump, let it flood that line. He said, then we close that. Now you've primed that line already with the backfill from the tank. And he said, now all of that's primed. You don't have to suck the water up. You just filled it up. And he did that. And there was like a little bit of delay because I guess there's probably like a small amount in the pump. But he hit that, and boom, And soon enough, you're going. I was like, man, I wouldn't even thought of that. It makes sense. Same thing as the garden hose I did, for my daughter. I didn't have to suck on the other end or more form of suction. I filled it up, put it in there, so it already had it primed. But I was like, I'm sure that's the basic teaching, but it was just a good teaching moment on drafting.
That's like, getting deep into the theory of drafting, when you consider 14.7 is atmospheric pressure, you can lift water 33.8, 33.9 feet, theoretically. However, most fire pumps won't lift water over 25 feet.
Yeah.
They used to throw the trivia question out to firemen and say, why do you only have two 10-foot sections of hard intake hose? They were like, I don't know, because that's enough to carry. I was like, no, it's because you can't lift water. A fire pump won't lift water. The priming pumps won't lift it more than 24, 25 feet.
Yeah. That's if you got a really good seal and really good prime, too. Good pump. Yeah.
One. Yes. Yeah. If they're really good, they'll lift it that high.
Yeah.
Now, but what if it just needs to go further out? I said, well, you can go further out.
Yeah.
I said, the problem is, you know how firemen are. If you give them 30 foot of hose and it's 27 foot to the water line on the bridge that they want to draft from, they're going to hook all three of them up and say, well, we can reach it in order to do it. Mm-hmm. So, it's just fun to teach that and get them. Once people understand all the theories behind it, they do such a better job at drafting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, drafting really is kind of a simple thing, but it's one of the hardest things.
It is.
To, I guess, conceptualize and to get straight in your brain.
People have a huge fear of drafting only because they don't do it.
Yeah.
You go out once a year, maybe, and you do it to pass your practicals. Mm-hmm. Your checkoffs every year. And that's the only time you go out and hook up the draft, and it's everybody's there together, and everybody just kind of talks through it, hooks it up, and drafts. Mm-hmm. But once you go through a class and you truly understand it, then you're like, hook it up, let's draft, I got it. Mm-hmm. It's easy now because you understand it.
The best thing that ever helped me drafting, to fully solidify it, was when I had to go to the Waycross Wildfires in 07 with a front mount pump, and we had to do drafting. And, that helped me a ton because we had a 2,500 gallon front mount. And so I was refilling a lot of 500 gallon brush trucks. So I'd be drafting like all day some days. So we'd hook up, draft, and then keep it going. And then I realized, this pump's going to get really hot unless you're flowing water. And so we just put a smooth bore like a master treatment, had it shooting back out in this pond and just let it circulate. But doing that drafting a lot helped me. And then I figured out how to roll and pump with that thing because we were doing mop up, and we got tired. Me and the other guy on the truck got really tired of walking beside the fire truck. So I said, man, we about to figure something out here. And I figured out the RPMs I needed to be at to make this combination nozzle on the master stream to get it to whatever 100 psi or 90, whatever it was. And I said, okay. I looked at the truck when we just had it in park, and I was like, all right, it was at 2,400 RPMs. I don't even remember what it was. And I was like, okay, 2,400 RPMs produce this pressure on the pump outside. Because in the cab, you don't have any kind of pressure gauge.
No, the only thing you got is your RPM
gauge. And so I had the guy sitting on the front of the front mount with a master stream because he couldn't really look at the pump gauges. Like he'd have to turn around and look from the front, because they're designed to be staying at the front of the truck looking at him, and he's basically sitting on top of the pump box. And so he said, all right, 2,400 RPM. So I put that thing in like first gear or second gear, and we just roll at 2,400 RPM, just spraying. And I got a picture of him sitting on the front of the bumper, rolling and pumping, because we're like, how can we do this?
Those old front mounts and all, having that pump and roll capability. Yeah, that was cool to have.
Because somebody asked me about that. Can you pump and roll? I was like, I don't know. How do you do that? And they're like, I was like, well, we're about to figure this out. Because we were walking along beside it with an 1.25 inch, and we got tired of that. Just walking beside the truck. We're like, we're about to be efficient. Firemen going to be efficient. You might say lazy, but no, we're about to be efficient.
Yes. Well, that's like we used to mess with firemen when they would go check their pumps in the mornings. You'd be out there checking it, they pull the truck out, and we'd go open the passenger's door and crawl through there. And when they started checking the pump, we'd mash the accelerator in the cab. Because you can mash the accelerator in the cab and still raise the RPMs and override what they were doing on the old trucks. The new ones, if you go inside and mess with anything, it shuts it down. But on the old ones, you go in there and mash the accelerator. And that's what we used to tell them. If your throttle cable breaks in the back, if you know what your RPMs are running, you just hop up in the cab and sit there with your foot on the accelerator in the cab. You can keep your pump going. Yeah. That was that 10 days I spent in Waycross was very
informative for me as like a young guy learning the pump because I was like a relief driver then, but I hadn't done a lot of it, and so just that tour, doing all that was I'd learned a lot from that, and you learned how you cavitate that pump because it only had like a 3-inch line, hard line, I think it was, going from the pump all the way back to the tank, and it wasn't you could cavitate that thing, you started flowing a lot of GPMs real quick, so I learned that, and if you wanted to run anything, you better hook up to the pump directly with a bigger hose.
Right.
But
exactly.
But it was very interesting. I will always remember that because we had to figure that out. We're like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah, that's a good thing about the fire service. You learn critical thinking skills in the fire service.
You're going to figure it out.
You will if you want to be successful.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Marines a little bit, improvise over that. Which medics are a lot of the same way too. You gotta figure out, what do we have? All right, we're going to figure this out.
Yes, you got to make something work.
Yeah, we got to figure something out real quick. Like
absolutely.
I was about to say something else about pumping. I don't know. But your dad was your dad just a firefighter, or was he an engineer in Albany, or what was his rank when he left?
Well, he was a driver when he left.
Yeah.
But like I was telling you before, he was what they called him a lineman back then. Mm-hmm. You hear people talking about working on the line now, and what they really mean now is you work in suppression.
Yeah.
When they say you work on the line, well, he was called a lineman because he would go out and actually work on really the telegraph lines that these call boxes communicated through. So he was like a low voltage lines, and these call boxes through the town would sit different locations. All of them knew the addresses of the different call boxes, and you would go up and pull it. Well, when you pulled that call box, it would actually send a low voltage signal back that would be basically like Morse code, but it would send the signal back to the dispatcher's room, which at the time that he was there, the dispatcher's room was moved over into Station 1, which is now part of the Secretary's administrative offices, but that used to be a dispatch room. And they had a little small window they could look out there at the trucks in the bays. Yeah. But a ticker tape would go off, and it would do the tickers on the tape as to what the call box number was. And if it was call box 16, then they would look at it and say call box 16 is activated. Well, they would dispatch trucks to whichever trucks were supposed to respond to that call box. Yeah. And they would go to that general area and look around and see if they found the fire.
That's so interesting now, thinking about that. I remember seeing somebody showed me like what a call box was. Like, it was like an antique they found. Yeah. They're like, hey, look at this old call box. I was like, what's that? Now, how often were those? Were they just like every few blocks or something? Yeah, or like
just every few blocks they would have a call box. And, back like when he started in his early career, they talked about they done fire watch. Yeah. And basically what they would do is walk around downtown and they would walk around watching for fires and looking. And if they saw a fire, they would run to the nearest call box and pull it themselves. To notify, hey, send me trucks, we got a fire. Yeah.
So did they only have like Station 1 downtown when your dad was there, or how many stations they had?
No, actually, at the time that he left, I'm pretty sure they had just built Station 7.
Oh, wow. So they had a lot back then, too.
Yeah. So they had Station 7. And if you look back in the history of these stations, there's been several different locations for the stations. Yeah. Like Station 3 is, I worked there most of my career, or many of the years of my career out of Station 3. Well, years ago, Station 3 was actually on East Broad Avenue, right there, right at Hobson Street, which became a motorcycle shop for years. If you remember seeing an old motorcycle shop on East Broad.
Yeah. Down there, right beside the railroad tracks, right?
Steve
Yeah. Huh.
So that was, right there was old Station 3.
Oh, wow.
And then they moved to Holly Drive. which is where I worked. And then I was there when we moved from Holly Drive then to Honeysuckle, and we opened the new station on Honeysuckle. So that's how much that's moved. And, of course, Station 7 built a new station recently, or I'll say recently, 7 or 8 years ago now. Moved from, they were at Mock.
Yeah, I was about to say, that the one that was at Mock had moved? Yeah.
So they moved. Station 4, way back when, was actually sitting right there at Highland and Poplar Street. And now they're on Gordon.
Yeah.
But years ago, they were at Highland and Popular.
Were they just moving them because it wasn't the best location? Or?
Well,
I know the one on Mock they had to move because of whatever problems with the station.
But, a lot of times it was just as they were adding and changing geographically, they determined, okay, this station's old, it needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to put it in an even better place.
Yeah.
Based off of how the town grows, how the community changes, population changes, and you have growth. And, of course, the trucks are faster now than what they used to be. So, they kind of spread them out a little bit, moved them.
Now, because I don't know the answer to this, I'm going to ask you, and this is a stupid question. You can tell me. I don't think it's stupid, but it just really goes to my age and probably younger people watching this. When did they get rid of the call box? Like, when did 911 come into effect? Do you remember that, or was that during your dad's time, or was that after he left?
No, it was during his time that the call boxes were phasing out.
Yeah.
And they were actually going into the new 911 centers like they have now and bringing in 911. I can't tell you the exact year that 911 was implemented. I don't recall that. But I remember them changing out the dispatch equipment because as a kid, he brought some of that stuff home. Back then, they, when they disposed of stuff, they was like, if you want to take it, it doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And he brought some of that stuff home, and I remember sitting out there playing in the yard with my Huffy bicycle and would pretend that I was dispatching myself, and hop on my Huffy bicycle to go out on the call, But they were transitioning back then into the 911 system. Now,
going back to the dispatchers in-house at Station 1, would they sound the alarm like in the station, or the station's like, and they'd come with the radio?
They would sound the alarm, and they were actually firemen that were on duty.
Oh, okay.
So they used their own firemen as dispatchers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they would work so many hours in dispatch and then ride a truck.
Oh.
And they would trade out.
Gotcha.
So they weren't just sitting there the whole time.
Yeah.
But they were all trained to dispatch, and they would all take turns. I won't say all of them. Some of them didn't dispatch.
Yeah.
The ones that were trained, they would all take turns.
Interesting. I got to think when they went to 911, that had to be a big change, like to go from that system to that. I mean, I'm sure there were some headaches and hiccups and everything with that, trying to transition that big system. But
yeah, no doubt. And like even when he was there and he did that, he would work the truck from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon.
Mic a little closer.
Okay.
You can pull it down lower right in front of you.
He would work the line truck from 8 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Then at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he got on the fire truck for the rest of the night. And they did the mechanics the same way.
Huh.
They had their own mechanics.
I was about to ask, for the mechanics firefighters too? Or is that just, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I bet you that helped so much with learning the fire truck too.
It was a lot better back then when the fire trucks were the mechanic. I mean, the fire truck. The firemen were the mechanics.
Yeah.
But when I started, there was a guy named Waldo Matthews and Walter Matthews. There was a father and son, and the father was a mechanic, and then Walter Matthews was on the truck with us, and his dad actually worked on the fire trucks. And we went through them and several others that come through, and it was a lot better when you could call the person that actually worked for the fire department.
Yeah.
And they would come and fix your fire truck.
Yeah.
And, of course, we used to joke around all the time. As long as you have wire pliers and duct tape, they fix it. But now the way the system works, where you got to go right up your truck and turn it into the shop. They might take your truck and take it out of service for some trivial repair, but they won't let you keep your truck because of that repair, and they won't go ahead and fix it.
Yeah.
And, of course, years ago, you realize we used to change all our own light bulbs. We would add oil, transmission fluid, coolant, whatever we need to do. We did that ourselves.
Yeah, we'd have checked that in the morning. Remember, check off on the truck as an engineer, then flipping up the cabs and checking all the fluid levels and everything.
I mean, you still have to do that, but back then we could fix the problem.
Yeah.
They would let us, if you had a bulb out, we had spare bulbs. We kept spare bulbs at the station.
So will they let them add like a half quart oil?
No, we can't do.
You can't do that?
No, can't touch a truck now. All you can do is report there's a problem.
Wow.
You can't add anything.
That's ridiculous.
Like we used to, we used to keep an air compressor. We'd air up the tires. The tires were a little low. We'd check the pressures, air the tires up, and change bulbs.
Shoot, I remember an old engineer teaching me the trick of, the hammer on the tires, checking air pressure. He's like, listen, this one's low. And he's like, hear this? And which is, very... Well, I guess if you've done it enough, you can get pretty damn good at it. He was. But he was teaching me that, which semi-drivers, I don't know if they do it anymore. I know my brother-in-law is semi-driver, knows it. But them doing the same thing, hitting them with the damn little mini sledge, whatever. Yeah. And, damn.
But, we did all that. Changed fuses.
That's crazy you can't add oil to a fire truck. I mean, I know they're so computer-controlled and manufacturer-controlled now. I guess I get it.
Well,
but it's...
Their complaint become that people were less mechanically inclined.
Yeah.
And they got to a point they were worried, or maybe it did happen, that maybe they would put transmission fluid where the oil went, or oil where the transmission fluid went, and, created those problems. But
it's always bugged me, and this is across fire, probably all of jobs now, period, not just public safety, is instead of educating people now and investing in educating them of how to be better on this, we're just going to outsource it. So we don't have to worry about them making an error and costing us money. Like that, like the answer is less education? I don't think that's ever a good answer.
I actually started saying that we continue to dumbify the service.
Well, it's just like EMS, they got rid of... No, I don't want to say it. I think it's coming back. But for a while there, it seemed like you wanted what we would call, the cookbook medics. Yep. All right, what's the policy say? What's the protocol say? We just do this. So you're trying to eliminate critical thinking.
Exactly.
And that's like, I'm like, this is not the answer. The answer is more education and critical thinking to align with your guideline or protocol, not to take that away where, I'm worried about them not putting transmission fluid in the engine oil. Hey, how about we invest in education for maybe the people that are less mechanically inclined, so they know this in case there's any. Yeah, let's teach them. Let's invest more in the teaching. Same like police officers now. They're talking about getting rid of training. That's not the answer. More training is the answer.
Yeah, more training is the answer to all of it.
Yeah, more
education and more training. And when I talk about education, I mean 101.
Yeah.
A true live instructor.
True stuff, not PowerPoint.
Right.
All right, we're clicking through the PowerPoint. Let me read the PowerPoint.
To me, we did dumbify the service when we moved everything to digital PowerPoints. Do it at your own leisure. I'm going to assign you all these classes to take in this system that we have, educational system, and you go in and you click on that class and you watch it and answer the questions, and if you answer enough questions right, you get credit for the class. Well, to me, that became just let it play through and click it until because you could take those tests as many times as you wanted, so eventually you could find the right combination to pass the test. Or like firemen, and I'm sure all medics now do the same thing. Somebody's going to go take the test. They're going to write the answers down, and they're going to send them to everybody they know. So now these people just turn it on, let it play, and when it comes test time, they go in there and say, all right, well, Bob sent me all the answers. So, they sit there with the answers and fill it in on the test, and they get credit for it. They never even watched it.
Yeah.
I think that we really hurt their service when we took away having the officer or even one of the members on the crew, I used to assign firefighters to teach class.
Yeah. You'd have somebody that's their specialty. Hey, you're really good at drafting. All right, I want you to do drafting because you're the best at it, you know?
Well, that, and here's what you also realize. You know, when you have somebody teach a class, they learn more about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we would go out and go around the truck. I remember doing this with a new guy one time. Told him, said, listen, we're going to walk around the fire truck. Anything you don't understand, say, I don't know anything about that, or ask questions. Yeah. And we'll teach you. So we were going around and back at the time, you know, we carried the portable oxygen tanks, you know, the old demand valve, on-demand oxygen.
Yeah.
Resuscitators.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I was trying to think, yeah.
The old on-demand resuscitator oxygen bottles. Mm-hmm. And we got around to that, and, you know, officers, I was the driver at the time, the officer says, hey, all right, what about the resuscitator? Are you competent with using the resuscitator? Oh, yeah. Do you have any questions I can answer for you about how to use the resuscitator? He said, no, I got that. He said, good, at 1:30, bring the resuscitator to the circle because you're going to teach us all about it.
Oh, wow.
That was at 8:30 that morning. So basically what he told him is only give you the next few hours to learn what you can learn about this resuscitator.
Yeah.
And back then what we would do is we'd get in the middle of Station 1 in the truck shed. We'd put all the chairs in a circle. And whoever was going to teach about something would get in the middle of that circle.
Yeah.
And they'd just teach to everybody sitting around them. And what it did is it put you on point.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know something, it would bring it out. And at that point, you would learn. So that person went to digging, and he didn't do the best job at teaching a resuscitator that day. But what he did do is become a lot more familiar with that resuscitator.
Yeah. And
after that, it actually inspired him, and he learned everything there was to know about this resuscitator, and he came back and taught it.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, that's, to me, it's a good technique to use. I'd like to see them back into that mode again.
Yeah.
Having people teach.
Yeah, I think that should go across all fire EMS, probably even law enforcement. Yes. Or really, like I said, generally all of job stuff that's, you know, especially critical skills.
Absolutely.
You know, because those PowerPoints, I've always been a person, I learn way better and more hands-on than I ever do reading a book. I can learn some numbers and I can memorize some numbers and this and that, but, right. You know, a week later you want me to do that? Okay.
Right.
I vaguely remember this.
Well, I used to memorize stuff out of a book or whatever else. But what happened is I started teaching is I felt like I even taught myself some things. Because as I was trying to explain it to somebody else, and I would be like, oh, wait a minute, I understand that a whole lot better myself now.
Well, there's there's things, too, like you think, you know, okay, I know this fire pump, you know, I know how to operate it. Then somebody will ask a question like, hey, what about this discharge or whatever over here? What about if you're running like multiple discharges? You're like, you know what? I haven't thought about that because I haven't had to do that. Let me think about that. You know, and it makes you think. You know, and you're like, well, I know all this, but I hadn't thought of that aspect of it. Right. You know, and that's some of the best thing to it. You're like, well, let me think on that, you know. And, you know, that's one of the good points of there's no stupid questions. No. You know, ask it. Make you think.
Ask it. By all means, ask your questions.
Look, and I find some of the best, you know, which now I work in flight, some of the best questions I get is doing LZ classes on helicopters. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned this, I don't know who I was talking to, but I had an LZ class. And I'm used to going doing an LZ class, and I'm going to tell you all the stuff from my aspect of what we need from you. And I was kind of thrown into an LZ class. Like, hey, you got to go do this LZ class this morning. I'm like, oh, okay. And I flew down there, and I was like, you know what? Tell me, what are y'all's questions you have for me? And it was with the fire department. And they were asking the questions that I've never had to do before, but as a fireman, make complete sense. How many gallons of fuel do you have on here? What type of fuel is it? You know, where can we turn the battery off at? And I was like, man, I am glad you asked all these questions. Let me show you where the battery is in this helicopter. This goes down. You can clip these wires right here. Here's the battery switch. You can't get to it. Here's the battery. You can snip those. Here's the fuel. Here's where it filled up. Here's where the oxygen is. And it's stuff that I hadn't thought about from that aspect of like, okay, say we have a hard landing, emergency landing, and fire department responding, you need to know how many gallons of fuel could be potentially on this. And I'll give great credit to that assistant chief that was there. I don't remember his name, but he was like, all right, guys, they have like up to 140 gallons of Jet A. Jet A is closest to diesel. And he's like, this one truck isn't going to have enough foam for all of that fuel. And he was going through it. I was like, man, I am so glad y'all asked these questions. So now if ever doing the LZ class, especially the fire department, I'm going to be asking those same questions and making sure that at least they're aware.
Make sure they're prepared.
Yeah, because I didn't think about it from that aspect. If we have a hard landing or something and they have to rescue us.
If anything goes wrong, you got to do something about it.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, these windows push right out. I said, as fire department, this helicopter is probably the easiest thing you'll have to disassemble because it is not a rigid structure. I mean, they look tough, but they're made to be lightweight. I was like, these hinges, you can pop them. I was like, you can take the sawzall. Yeah. It's aluminum. You can go right through these hinges, and this whole door will fall off.
Yeah.
I said, but easier than that, I said, you can just knock these windows out. I said, but even the latches, I said, you could probably just take a Halligan and pop these latches.
Yeah.
I said, they're not, you probably need jaws of life to assemble this helicopter, which, you could get an argument of most stuff you don't need jaws of life, it's just how much time you have. But,
now that they've got this, God, I can't even. Right now, the name just left me. But there's a door jamb tool in the Hearst equipment now that's made specifically for popping popping like residential doors.
Yeah.
God, I don't know why I can't call the name of it. But, man, that thing works great. For stuff like that, it will pop that door right off.
Yeah.
Real easy. Matter of fact, I started using Hearst equipment, these battery-powered spreaders and everything to do forcible entry on houses.
Yeah.
From the old irons, carrying the irons and doing forcible entry. It was like, no, we got a forcible entry. Hey, bring the spreaders, And, man, you pop a door on a house. So easy with a set of spreaders now.
It was interesting to me talking about critical thinking. Is I remember I had a firefighter, he carried a sledgehammer. I was like, why are you carrying that sledgehammer? He goes, man, a lot of this stuff, you're concentrating on the lock and not what's around it. He said, you can knock a hole through drywall or a simple door way easier than you can just trying to force that lock. And I was like, I didn't think about that.
We did.
And I was like, that's a very good critical thinking point, thinking outside the box and stuff like that I always, obviously, I remember stuff like that. And the stuff you don't think about, you're concentrating on the one thing and you forget outside of it.
A lot of these houses had burglar bars on them. And we went to a house out here on Sylvester Road that had burglar bars on the front door and all the windows, and all of them were locked. And they were selling somebody was inside, and it was on fire. And we did exactly that. We chopped a hole right beside the front door.
Yeah.
And went in easier than what you would actually go through the front door.
Yeah.
But everybody's mindset, like you say, is that tunnel vision that you got to go through a door or a window. And it's like, no, you can go through the wall just as easy.
Yeah, vinyl siding and studs aren't nothing for a chainsaw.
Especially in these mobile homes and things like that. These modular homes, and just even a standard sided house most of the time, especially vinyl siding. You just tell firefighters, look, if you feel like you're trapped in a room and you don't have a window, you can't get to the window or whatever else. I said, you realize you can kick a hole in this sheetrock.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. And you bust the sheetrock out of the way, there's nothing there but the exterior wall. I said, and you can bust through that almost as easy.
Yeah.
If nothing else, if you start kicking on it, the people outside are going to be like, hey, he's right here, and they're going to help you.
Yeah.
I said, and then all you do is slide your SCBA to the side, you go through the studs, and you're outside. I said, don't ever get yourself stuck and think that I can't get out because I can't get to a door. And
it's amazing, too. I remember doing, like, the confined space classes and, like, interior search and rescues, the small areas you can fit through. Even me, I'm, 5'11", 225, 230, and even when I was bigger at fire department, you take your SCBA off, push it in front of you, hold on to it, and let it fall off. But the small areas, they show you a hole. All right, you need to get through this hole. I can't get through there. I promise you can. If you can get your head and one arm through, you can get through there.
Yep.
And you're like, wow, I can get through that small hole. You're like, that was. I always remember that too. They had the little hole set up with 2x4s, simulating like studs or whatever. You can fit through there easy. That small hole you can get through.
That's it.
If you can get your helmet through, not even your helmet. You can take your helmet off if you need to. But those were always good classes to me, and good teachers.
I like confined space, hangar rescue, all those extra classes. To me, the more you can learn, the easier the job gets.
And it's stuff like that has to be taught in person. You can see a PowerPoint on it, but unless you see that small hole in person, you look at yourself, you look at that hole, you're like, I'm not fitting through there.
Yeah. Well, that's like just learning, like you say, critical thinking skills. You know, when Hurricane Michael come through, I was out at Station 10 in Albany. Mm-hmm. And when it finally calmed down enough that we could actually go out, and we had all these people calling, they were stuck in places. Mm-hmm. Well, we started trying to go down the road, and everywhere we got to, there's trees across the road.
Yeah.
Well, what we did is we started taking, and we put the tow hooks on the front of the truck. Mm-hmm. And we would take the tow hooks and the chains for the rescue tool and hook the chain to the tow hook, wrap it around the tree, and actually back up and pull the tree around out of the road and be able to go on down the road. Yeah. We didn't have chainsaws, but we took our chain and tow hooks, hooked it around the tree, and pulled it backwards so we'd swing around out of the road and we could go on by.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, like you say, critical thinking. What do we have? What can we make work?
I'll tell you how that relates to something a flight nurse taught me of like critical thinking. Something we never thought about was we have small IV pumps we carry on the helicopter, little tiny ones, like that same thing I have in the hospital. We just have miniature volume,
right,
or smaller ones. But the drip sets that hook into them, they have air chambers in them so you can see them drip.
Right.
And I had a nurse that I became partners with, and he would push all the air out of the bag, and then he would fill up the drip chamber completely where there was no air in the bag or the drip chamber. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, a lot of times we're loading people in the helicopter. We have to lay those pumps down or put them in a position where there might get air in the line. Then that pump's going to alarm air in the line. Then you got to draw the air out of the line. It's a pain in the A. And he said, it's on a pump. This pump's going to alarm and let us know that if it's not pumping or if there's a problem. And doing this, now I can lay that pump down flat with it, and it's going to keep pumping. And I was like, shit, why did I never think of that?
Yeah,
such a simple
air
thing.
Pocket doesn't get in the way.
Yeah. I was like, why did I never think of this? And the whole time I've been doing this now, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's such a simple thing. Yeah. But I mean, now if you're gravity feeding and you don't have a pump, you need to see it dripping. So you can count your drips, do it old school. But if it's on an infusion pump and you can set the rate and it's going to alarm. Yeah, you don't need to do that. And just for our situation, having to lay down bags flat and risk getting air in the line, you just solved a problem. And I was like, I never, ever thought of that. And about everybody I pass along, I don't know how many times I pass that along now. But it's stuff like that, in-person stuff. But the book wouldn't tell you that.
No. It's not, and that is the type of information that is crucial for people.
Yeah.
Same thing with these, going back to talking about the trucks again and operating these electronic pressure governors. Mm-hmm. If it gets moved to where the foam system gets flipped over to eductor by mistake, a lot of times you're out there washing the truck, using the brush on the pump panels, you may bump that flip switch and turn the eductor on. Well, if you turn the eductor on the foam line, it won't build the correct pressure. Mm-hmm. You can keep running your RPMs up, and it won't build your pressure. And I've seen several firemen on fire scenes get there, and they say, I can't build pressure on this line. There must be rocks in the nozzle, all the old things.
Yeah.
Or the nozzle's on flush. We can't build pressure, which that happens sometimes too.
Yeah.
But what it is that eductor is turned on and it's trying to run it through the inductor on the drafting side, and it's not pulling foam or anything else. So, because the foam line's not on, so it can't build the pressure because it's trying to force it through that eductor. Yeah. And you go out there to the pump panel and reduce the pressure, turn the eductor off, and crank it back up, and you're good to go.
It's amazing, just the simple things. It is simple things like that a book might not just teach you.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's that's why I've never. I always say I'm not like the best teacher so much as far as book knowledge. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I could go talk through a PowerPoint, and if you want me to give specifics, but I've always been a good person because I remember, the tricks, the hacks people taught me that are important for logistical reasons when you're really having to work.
Exactly.
And those stick with me because those things make
they make
a huge difference to you.
Where it made a difference on the scene, you're going to remember that.
Mm-hmm. Because like
no doubt,
with like the case of the pumps, with us, you get air in the line, you get a critical patient. That is a big pain and a delay trying to get that air in the line and fix that issue. And that's such a simple thing. Years I worked and never knew that, and never even crossed my mind because just like entry firefighting, we got to go through the front door. This is where we go through the front door. Well, why don't you go through the drywall? Why don't you go through the vinyl siding? Oh, you don't think about it. Yeah. You don't think about that. You're like, it's so obvious, but you get caught in this is just the way we do things. You don't think outside the box. And those are always the things to me that strike such impact. And I'm sure it's a lot of people that have such an impact. And you're like, it's like the light bulb goes off. Like you said, like, I never thought about that.
I'll never forget, years ago, we had a house fire down here, somewhere in the neighborhood of Madison and Society. Don't know exactly where it was at. Somewhere in that range. Those old houses had the big, huge front porch on them. And they had a fire in one of the rooms in there. And they couldn't get the front door open. Back then, there were solid wood doors, and they would put 7 locks on them.
Yeah.
So they were sitting there having a hard time getting in the front door. So I actually went over and busted the window out on the bedroom next to it. And, of course, the fire was wrapping around into that room, too, and starting to try to come out of the top of the window. And I started climbing through the window, and the other fireman was with me, was freaking out. What are you doing? What are you doing? I said, look, I'm going in this window. I'm going to go put the fire out. Hand me the nozzle. They're trying to get the door open. I said, we're going to lose this house. We don't start now. Just hand me the nozzle. I'm going to go through the window, and we're going to go put it out. And so we did, and the whole time he was like, I don't know why I was freaking out. I said, because you had tunnel vision, we had to go through the front door. And, watching me go through a window when the room was on fire just blew your mind that it couldn't work.
Yeah.
But
I always thought, too, like you get those big wooden doors, especially the solid ones, just take a saw and just sink it, cut around the locks, and just open the door.
Well, see,
instead of mess with the locks, just cut around the locks and just open the door.
Absolutely, Brad. It's stuff like that, though, that people get so caught up.
Yeah.
And they can't think around it. It's like, this is the only way you do it. It goes back to what you said to start with. They get hung up that so many things, there's only one way to do it.
Yeah. And look, this is I had a class semi-recently. I was talking about pacing patients, like if they got a heart block and you're pacing them, they was talking about one of the problems being like you didn't get true capture. So you have electrical capture, but you don't have true mechanical capture of the heart, And I was always taught, if you're pacing somebody, like every 5 minutes or so, you need to confirm that you have a mechanical pulse that matches your paced rhythm. So they match. Makes sense.
Right.
And I had this class, and they went real in depth on like statistics of medics or people bringing in paced patients that didn't have true mechanical capture and the problems with that and all this. And I was sitting there thinking about it. I was like, now, I remember I was supposed to check true mechanical capture to confirm this regardless of the rhythm you see that looks like you have electrical capture. Yeah. And I kind of raised my hand and said, so, like if we would have checked their mechanical capture, if we'd have checked a radial carotid pulse, it wouldn't have matched, right? Yeah, it wouldn't have matched. I was like, so these people bringing in these patients weren't doing that, obviously, right? Well, no, they must not have been. So it seems like the simple solution with this is to go back to basics and you check your mechanical capture, right? Yeah. I felt like the whole class is kind of a moot point. Like, I feel like the purpose of the thing should have been like, check your pulse, not all this other stuff, which is great information, rhythms that might simulate that you have mechanical capture, but you get back to basics of, hey, if you check this, you would have found that real quick. And regardless of all the other stuff, like, okay. I was like, am I the only person?
Real simple. Yeah.
I was like, am I the only person thinking this? And maybe that's kind of the fireman stuff in me of keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
Hey, check
Absolutely.
that. And it seemed like a long expanded class or a reason of the simple thing you could have done was just check mechanical capture.
That's like I used to teach firefighters when I would get a new rookie on my truck. And I would tell them to go get the dry chemical. Of course, I was big into extinguishers, so I like to teach the difference between ordinary base, multipurpose base, dry chemicals, all that good stuff. But aside from that, simple theory of go get me the dry chemical off the truck. And they would go get it, and they would walk it all the way back to you carrying it normal. And I said, why are you carrying that in a normal position? And they're like, well, that's the way the handle's designed. That's what you do. I said, well, tell me this. At any point did you invert that extinguisher? Well, no. I said, okay. Think about this. A fire extinguisher sits on a fire truck and rides down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you have that's a powder, and you sit there and you bang it on the table, what's it doing?
It's settling.
It packs it in, right? I said, so when you get this extinguisher here, all the extinguishing agent is packed in the bottom of this extinguisher. I said, if you'll take that extinguisher, if you ever get a chance to do it, even the one on your Airbus, anything, and the one in your house, walk in there and pick that extinguisher up and flip it upside down and shake it up just a little bit, and you'll feel it kunk. You'll feel all that packing, all that chemical drop to the bottom. And you want to invert it a couple times and break that powder loose before you start trying to use the extinguisher.
I'm going to have to try that with the little one we have strapped in the helicopter.
Yeah. It will disperse the chemical because it'll break it up, make a powder out of it where it will disperse it. Otherwise, you're not going to get near the powder out of it because it's all packed and settled in the bottom.
Oh, wow. I never thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, just simple things like that you try to teach firefighters.
Yeah.
You have to do that. You're the professional.
Yeah.
So you got to do it right. Because you're expected to use it the right way.
Yeah. I never would have thought about that. No one's ever said that to me. Well, if they did, I don't remember it.
I'll tell you another little simple field thing. You're talking about learning hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching the concept of a dust explosion.
Mm-hmm.
You hear this term all the time, these sugar factories and these places.
Yeah, flour, peanut.
Yes, where you have these dust explosions. Well, you know what's extremely flammable that you probably have in your house that you use all the time?
Flour, isn't it?
Flour or coffee creamer.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those videos.
Have you seen the videos?
Yeah, they throw it up over a flame and phew.
Yes. Well, I used to do it. I would just simply take one of those long grill lighters, and I would go out there with that grill lighter, and I would light the grill lighter, and I would take the container of coffee creamer, and I would shake it above it, and as it would drop down and hit that fire, it would just, blow up. But if you take that same powder and you pour it on a table or pour it on the ground, and you take that lighter and you stick it to it, it doesn't burn.
Yeah.
And they were like, I don't understand that. I said, well, it goes back to that whole theory of your air mixture with your surface of your material. I said, and it's all aerosolized. I said, and when that happens, it becomes explosive.
Yeah.
I said, so that's how you can understand how in these factories, when this dust gets stirred up and a spark is created, that's where they explode.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's you talking about, here down in South Georgia, we got a lot of peanut factories, and they talk about the risk of all that peanut dust.
Absolutely.
Doing the same thing. Which I don't know, that's how a lot of them start, but I know they talk about it, and I didn't fully realize that or think about it until I was like, oh, yeah, that would be a tremendous hazard.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I've seen those videos. I saw, might have just been one video of the coffee creamer. They had like an open flame, and the guy threw it over the flame, and whew, I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, I knew flour could do that, but the coffee creamer, I guess, is worse. Or it seemed to be worse. It was a lot bigger explosion or flash than I was expecting.
But it works really good just as a visual to get them to understand the idea and the theory behind the whole dust explosions and how that works.
Yeah.
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 I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
I like the hands-on training. I'm like you. I like to do a lot of the hands-on training.
And I think it's one of those things like nobody likes the idea of having to go to like another class, but when they actually do it, they appreciate it more. Everybody's going to grump about more training. But I mean, my kind of thing is, well, would you rather sit in front of a computer and watch an hour-long video by yourself, or would you rather do like a hands-on thing? And I'd much rather do hands-on.
I would rather do a hands-on, especially if you can make it fun or make it applicable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we do a lot of the mundane training that we go out there and we know we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put the ladder up in the same place. We're going to do it the same way.
Yeah, the required.
Yeah, the required. And I told them, look, change it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Make people think.
Yeah.
Because what you find is that you can take firefighters and you can take them to a training center. Mm-hmm. And if you make them park the truck in the same place and they get the ladder off the same way, and they carry the ladder to the same place on the building, and they put the ladder up the same way every time. Well, when you take them to a fire scene, and now they got to get the ladder off, carried around to a different place, and put the ladder up in a different way, they're lost.
Yeah.
And that's what it teaches you is you can't do all of your training the same way. Mm-mm. Because when you change what they have to do, they're lost in how to do it.
Well, it's like just like going to about, entering a structure. You do the same thing. All right, we take the Halligan here, hit it with the axe, and this is how we get into a structure. But when it comes, nut cutting time, so to speak, and,
mm-hmm.
Time is of the essence, there's faster ways and you don't think outside the box because you've just been doing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
We
went to, I'm sure you called for forcible entry from the fire department many times probably on a medical call. We went to a call one time from Station 2 and arrived on the scene with long-time experienced paramedics. And they're telling us, look, we got a patient in this house. They were talking to 911. They stopped talking to 911. And we pick them up here all the time, and we can't get them to respond to us. Can't get them to answer the door. So we need y'all to force entry. So we're like, okay, so you know that they live here, and you pick them up here all the time. Dispatcher lost contact with them through cell phone, and they won't answer now. I said, yeah. I said, okay, we'll force entry. Well, we went around. We done our own check. We're always taught try before you pry.
Yeah,
right?
Check the windows and doors.
So we went around, knocked on every door, every window, checked them, couldn't get anything. So we're like, okay, we'll go through the front door. Fine. So I told my guys, I said, hey, go get the toolbox and bring me a claw hammer and a flat screwdriver. And they kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? I said, just go do it. Because this house only had a single doorknob.
Yeah.
No deadbolt, anything else. So I took the claw hammer and I knocked the handle off and stuck the screwdriver in there and turned the knob and opened the door.
Yeah.
Right? Well, when I did that, a lady come running from the back of the house screaming, what are you doing? Why are you breaking in my house? Turned out that person had moved from there about a month ago.
Oh.
There was a new tenant, and we had just broken into their house.
Oh, wow.
Now, luckily, we didn't do the standard kick the door in or use your tools and bust the frame. All it was is a broken doorknob.
Yeah.
So it's a very inexpensive repair.
Yeah.
So it's I call it divine intervention. It was just it hit me. Hey, let's just do this. And even the crew said, "What made you do that?" And I said, "I don't know." They said, "Well, it worked great. Far less damage to a house.
Yeah.
You don't have to replace the whole door jamb, door trim, everything else." I was like, well. Can't explain it. It's just how it works sometimes.
Yeah, that's just experience,
Well, it's experience too, but it's and showing them. And I used to take and teach people. Another thing, talk about hands-on training and teaching. I used a lot of props in teaching, and they used to take the door strike and the strike plate from a doorknob, and teach people how to. When you talk about forcing Jimmy in a door. Everybody's always wanting to use a credit card and slide the credit card in and open the door. Mm-hmm. So, anytime you do that, it tells you the door wasn't installed properly.
Yeah. It didn't have the right, it had too big a gap.
Yeah, it's too big a gap. It's not installed right because that little plunger that's on the back side of the strike, if that plunger is pushed backwards just a little bit, you can't force that plunger backwards. Have you ever noticed that?
I've noticed too, they always have like the flat space. And if it's a tight spot, you can't even get to the bevel of the plunger to make it go back. So that's why I say like the gap. Like if you got a tight gap like it's supposed to be, it's not going to work.
Well, the way it's supposed to be put in is when that strike plate goes in, the keeper is supposed to go in. Mm-hmm. But that little plunger is supposed to stay pushed backwards. It's not supposed to go into the keeper with the strike. So if it goes with the strike plate's not installed properly.
Yeah.
So if you put it in to where that little plunger is kept pushed back, you can't push that strike back. It will not move.
I never thought about that, or I never looked into that.
Mm-hmm.
I got to check my own house doors now.
Yeah, you'll end up moving your strike plate.
Yeah, probably.
You will. You'll slide it over to where when you shut that door. Now the disadvantage is you can't force yourself. You can't get your own self back in your house if you lock yourself out.
Yeah.
But it also tells you that somebody can't come up that understands how to do it. Now, if you leave play, I've had them where there was enough play in there that I could force it and get that keeper to go in and stick something in there.
Yeah.
And then when you force it and that keeper goes in, it'll automatically push that strike back.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed more so that they're set with a wide gap, and then you can slide something in there and jimmy that the whole keeper back into there so it'll pop open. Yep. But if they're set tight and right, you can't.
Right. If they're set right, you won't get it open.
And going back to like training and stuff, like I guess I've reached a point in my life where I realize like there's kind of like two things that I feel like kind of rule my life is like I say like attention and investment. Everything wants your attention, whether it be your phone, another person, or whatever, just life. Your attention is the most valuable thing. Like I said, like your data, your phone, everything wants your attention. That's the most valuable thing. And you have to make an investment. Whether it be like talking to somebody monetarily, whatever, it's the investment you make into it. And I think, like as far as like training, the investment of people's attention, more or less, to devote to that is the thing, especially from a management side, they don't want to do. They got other stuff going on, but that investment is like, to be fully invested in that is too much or something they either can't do or won't do. Where it used to be, it was like kind of like a given. You had to make this investment in your people and invest your time, to make that good. Well, now you got all these easier training stuff where it's like, well, I don't have to make that investment. I got this easier PowerPoint, this class I can send over. You know what I mean?
I say we got too soft. We made everything convenient.
Yeah.
And we don't want to make anybody mad. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
Or anything else. Where it used to be that your officer walked in the room and said, okay, school time. Mm-hmm. Well, if they walked in and said it was school time, it's school time. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You stop it, you put it up, and you're fixing to have school until they say we're done. Sometimes you didn't know how long that was going to be. And it's like society has evolved to the point now where the employers are like, well, I'm not in the mood to do that, or I'm not ready to do that right now, or whatever. And people just cave to it.
Yeah.
Rather than holding back to the standards of, no, you're at work. The fact that you're here 24 hours a day doesn't mean that you're not at work. So you're at work, and we have these things that we need to take care of today. And we're going to school for 2 hours on whatever subject we choose, and we're going to get in a room, and we're actually going to learn for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And if you do the mundane, boring, same stuff every time, nobody wants to do that. Mm-mm. But if you'll make it interesting, they'll get involved and they'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, I used to love to take people out to a truck and just start coming up with crazy things to ask them off the wall. Like, okay, you've got your 1 3/4 pulled off the truck. You need to tie on more, but you're already flowing there, and your dischargers are used up. How else can we tie an 1 3/4 onto this truck? And would even teach them how you can go up on the deck gun and take the last tip off, and that's an 1.5 inch thread, and you can thread an 1 3/4 onto your deck gun.
Yeah,
simple things.
Yeah.
Take your old 2.5 nozzles apart, and it becomes a gate valve or shut off for a gate valve for an 1 3/4.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's so many things that you can do with the tools and equipment on your truck. Mm-hmm. We all get into functional fixity where, and a spanner wrench is the prime thing to use for that. Ask somebody, what is that spanner wrench? What do? You tighten couplings with it.
Yeah.
Well, look at the spanner wrench. It's got a slot to turn off gas.
Yeah.
It's got a pry tool. It's got a hammer head on it. It's got a nail puller at the end of it.
Yeah.
I said there's a ton of different things that you can do with the spanner wrench.
Mm-hmm.
I used to use spanners to pop windows.
Oh, yeah.
Little aluminum windows. You can take 2.5 spanners, walk up to these aluminum windows, stick it under each side, pop it like that, and it'll pop the lock right out.
Huh. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's real easy to do. But it's just teaching little things to people.
Yeah, I think that's just so important. I feel like there's somewhat of a move back towards that. I know there's still there's the huge company aspect of, all right, we got these mandatory classes we got to send out, per our insurance or whatever. Yeah. But I think overall there's starting to be a move back towards that because I think people are getting tired of it. Well, or they're realizing it's not that beneficial.
That's it. What they're realizing is the deterioration in the efficiency and the productivity of their services.
Yeah.
And as these people have moved through, some of them that moved through were the ones that didn't really want to do a lot of training. Well, now what they found themselves in the position that they're the officer. Mm-hmm. They're now responsible for what happens on this scene. Mm-hmm. And what they realize is they're not even as educated as they need to be.
Yeah.
Experience-wise in practical hands-on application like you're talking about. So they can't teach their people. And the services are finally starting to realize we have got to go back to some of the basics of training and get back into the regiment of we have courses and true school training throughout the day.
Yeah. I wonder if part of it is, like my generation, I'm 43. I was, a lot of my stuff early on was hands-on. Mm-hmm. And then it started merging into a lot of the online digital stuff. And you got to think like people that may have been in it 5 years, they've probably only mainly had digital. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder if part of it is like you're saying, like those class of people, generation, I guess you'd say, are getting to a point where like, you know what, I didn't really learn that much because all I had was digital. I didn't have even online. Mm-hmm. Whereas like my generation was like, okay, I learned this. Now we're just doing this stuff. It's the same old stuff. We'll do this. Mm-hmm. But this other generation didn't even get that. And now they're seeing like, hey, I didn't even get that. So I see the importance of this. You had that. I didn't. I wonder if that's kind of part of it, too.
I think it very well could be because we've gone through, like say, we've gone through the digital age. Mm-hmm. And we're getting through the process now where everything is computerized. Now, the advantage to these younger people is for old guys like me, I'm not as computer savvy as I probably should be.
Yeah.
And you can bring these young guys in there and say, look, I'm trying to get this saved over and transferred to here. And they're like, well, all you do is copy, paste, do this, click Control V and this. And it's like, what? And I'm sitting there making notes, with these young guys. Like, okay, so I can do these things and there's shortcuts to do it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, that's all you do. So they have their place where they contribute by all means. Mm-hmm. As far as the computer systems and all go. But when it comes to performing what I call the core purpose of our job is lacking, and I do think that they're starting to realize it in the service. Yeah. Is it in the old days, like we're talking about my dad being there and even our generation, we grew up having to fix our own lawnmowers and do our own things. Mm. And you learn some of those skills. You learn tools. Yeah. Learn basic hand tools, and we used them. And the generations now aren't doing that. It became a part of, we call somebody to fix everything. Yeah. Well, when you join the fire department, you're the fixer. Yeah. And same thing with medics. You're the fixer. They got a medical problem. You're there to fix their medical problem. Mm-hmm. And sometimes a lot of what you have to do take mechanical skills and aptitude. Because you might roll up on somebody that's got their leg caught in a bicycle chain. And sometimes it's like, hey, if somebody's got a 9/16 wrench, we can take this back wheel loose and loosen up the chain enough to get them out.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that other people won't know.
Yeah. And I think, maybe that's part of it. Like you say, like even that, like the newer generation, they see like, hey, we didn't get this. And I see the importance of it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think, I really truly think that's, part of it. Besides the generational stuff, I think that we just took a lot of the older people that have been in it a while. They've done it forever, hands-on stuff. I don't want to do the hands-on anymore. But we're robbing the newer people coming in of that opportunity because we don't see it. Because we were gifted it, We had the good people, and now we're like, oh, shit, now we got to.
We didn't realize what an advantage we had.
Yeah. You didn't see the value of it,
Right. We didn't.
And maybe that's probably the departments seeing the quality of their people. Like, hey, I see something changed here. One of the things we changed was this.
Yes. And I do think that's what it is.
Yeah. And I'm glad to see it go back to that. I mean, I can speak for myself, It's so easy. All right, I can take this class, get these hours, but then you're like, I feel unfulfilled. I didn't really learn all that much like I used to.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it's the pain of having to drive somewhere and do this, but you got that knowledge.
Well, like, when I got the first rookie assigned to my station on Fridays, it's yard day. And I remember the first time I was like, all right, well, today's yard day, so, we cut grass on Fridays. So let's go out there and let's go ahead and cut the grass and do the weed heat and all that stuff. And the guy walked out and he come back in about 10 minutes. He said, got my, I don't know how to use a lawnmower. And for a minute, I'm sure I had the craziest look on my face because it's just, to me, that was like,
what?
What do you mean? You're a grown man. What do you mean? You don't know how to use a lawnmower?
Yeah.
But I just had to stop myself and realize, we're in this society and this time and age now where a lot of these kids grew up doing nothing but video games and computers and tablets, and even in school, they almost all have their own little tablet they use at school now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I had to come to the understanding that everybody doesn't walk in the door with the same basic life skills.
Yeah.
That we used to think were just common and everybody had it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's like, EMS wise, and what translates fire department too. It would never occur to me that people started EMS and didn't know how to drive a vehicle.
Right.
And I've heard that, and I'm like, how did that fall through the cracks, like their school and stuff? Like, how were these people getting? I mean, I guess they're taking Ubers to paramedic school, or they did it all online or whatever, but like, they don't know how to drive a vehicle. And it's like, well, you got to go back to basics there. It's time for EVOC, or even before EVOC. Like, all right, let's just learn how to drive.
Simple maneuvers,
And you realize how much people don't know how to back up and use mirrors.
Oh, my
like
God.
That was a generational thing. Once I've been in it 10 years and people didn't know how to back up and use their mirrors, I was like, boy, it might need to be like you need a service-wide class of, all right, what we're going to do today is use mirrors and back up between cones.
Well, it used to be a rarity.
I can't look behind me.
Yeah. Well, it used to be a rarity that we would have somebody that couldn't back the boat up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every now and then you get somebody come through and it's like, well, I can't back a trailer.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, we'll work with you. We'll teach you. And then it got to where you only had a few people that could back a boat up in the water.
Yeah.
So we've had to go back to the whole same concept of we got to teach people how to back trailers.
Yeah. You got to get hands-on with the simple stuff that you just thought everybody knew.
Thought everybody just knew how to do it.
Yeah.
But they don't.
It's just a interesting changing of times to me. Stuff you never would have considered would be something you'd have to train on or teach people. And you're like, well, it's not really your fault. I mean, I'm not blaming you, but it's a interesting aspect that you didn't consider before.
Yeah. But, like I said, those people have their place when you change reporting systems.
Yeah.
And you go to a new reporting system. These people that's always done computers and played all these games, they find their way through these programs so easy.
Oh, yeah.
And they adapt so well, way better than what I did.
Yeah.
I would struggle. I'd be like, oh, my God, how do I get to the next part? And what do I do? Or I click something and it took me somewhere and I don't know how to get back.
Yeah, the whole screen disappeared.
Yes.
Where'd it go?
Now what do I do? So
yeah, that's always going to be a problem. Like with that, because the way technology is advancing so fast. I'm 43. I was raised in it, but stuff's changing now. Now I'm feeling like the old guy. I'm like, how do we do this? What does change? What's new?
Yeah, I didn't learn computers as well as I should have early in my career. But, I was always averse to the change.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. We've talked about that before, how change is we hate what we have and we hate change.
Yeah. I was lucky enough growing up. Actually, it was actually like a month or so ago. I was typing a narrative on a report. I was sitting there click it away, and my partner said, he said, I envy you. I said, what? He said, you can just type like that so fast. He said, I can't do that. And he was about the same age as me. He goes, where'd you learn that? I said, well, I've just always been like that, because my mom, growing up, she worked for Southern Bell and Bell South, and I remember she was a manager, and I remember coming home one of the old original laptops had the fold out keyboard, and I remember pecking around on it and typing stuff and playing the basic games they had, and I was typing from a younger age. I learned how to. My mom taught me where to play hand placement just to type, and so I was typing. I've always been able to type, and even before that, had a typewriter. I remember my mom had a typewriter.
I never took typing class.
Yeah.
So the whole QWERTY keyboard and pressing your fingers and doing it, I have no idea. I'm a 2-finger pecker at it, and
yeah, I remember I think it was when I hit middle school, they had a year or two of typing classes, and you had to practice and get your words from it. Yeah. But I was always at the top because I had already been doing it. My mom taught me, and so I was always blessed. But I see that now, and feel that this nurse wasn't too much of a 2-finger pecker, but he couldn't. Yeah. He definitely wasn't as fast, and he was because I was hey, I'll just write out this whole narrative real quick, and I was just typing it up. Yeah. And he's I envy you. You can do that.
Well, you said your mom worked for Bell South.
Mm-hmm.
My mom did years and years ago, back up until probably until about 1970, I guess.
Yeah,
she worked for Bell South.
That my mom probably started. Let's see, my mom was born in 1952, and I know she got her bachelor's and then got a master's, and then she started with when it was Southern Bell here in Georgia. So it might have been mid-70s. She started up in Atlanta, and she worked there for 30-something years till AT&T took over. What was Southern Bell, then it was Bell South, then AT&T bought them out, and she was at AT&T for I don't know, a couple years. Then AT&T paid out the higher managers to get rid of that
top tier,
level. And so they gave her a retirement package basically, and she retired. I think she was there 34 years or something. But yeah, so she was always bringing home laptops to her work, and I get to type and play on them. And even before typing papers for school was a thing, I was able to do it home and print out those papers. You had to rip the strips off on the side. She had one of those big printers for work, and so I was able to type one of those on there, and I could print it off, and you had to rip off the
tabs on the side, with all the holes where the little gears pulled the paper through there.
So I was early on able to do that, and probably late elementary school, middle school. I was lucky enough to have one of those just because she had one for work, and so I was typing some of the, you couldn't change the font or anything. It was just that same robot font or whatever it was. I don't even know what you call that, but it was the one thing you had. MS-DOS. I remember that. You had to learn how to do all that. So, it's just stuff like that I take for granted. And even now you see people that they used to type and text it on their phone, not necessarily having a full keyboard, And it's I never would have considered that either. Everybody's, auto texting on their phone.
I know. I'm waiting for all these thumb problems that we have, or waiting to see what it does to us years down the road with the changing of the thumbs.
I got to a point there too with the iPads. I was doing talk to text on narratives, but then again, you get to medical jargon or drugs, and it screws that all up.
Oh yeah,
it's I had one. We had one iPad, and I remember I'd say normal saline, and it would change saline to Celine, like Celine Dion. So I had all these narratives like normal saline.
this new AI stuff they got now. A lot of these physicians and all now have it to where they can walk in a patient's room with their phone. They have apps now where they can talk through what they're doing with the patient and what their findings are and everything else, and it'll do half of their charting for them through the phone app as they simply talk through. It's like some people said they take Chat GPT now, and they'll say I got a 40-year-old male patient with BP, whatever, and go through all this stuff, and it'll type a narrative for them.
Yeah.
Format.
I've kind of tried to play around with that a little bit, but I guess if I could like give it the right prompts, it would write what I want it to. If I invested the time into it to make it do what I really wanted to, but I was kind of aggravated. I was like, I'll just write it out myself. And I'm kind of leery on the really formulaic narratives that are like templates. I feel like anytime I've tried to do that, I screw up stuff. Like I forget to change like the hospital or something, or put something else in, and then something's out of whack. And I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of behind the times. I know templates are good for some stuff, but it's just I can't. I go back and forth from it. I know people use them, but I don't. I don't know.
That was what was in some ways difficult for me, following the SOAP process and all the different things for doing a PCR, where having such a background in fire service, I was used to just writing a narrative, basically writing a story about what happened. So having to change up and try to fit things, like you say, in the different spots. Yeah. To me, that's what I was always worried about, is I'm going to forget something because I'm trying to fit what goes in this category, what goes in this category, rather than just telling the story.
Yeah. Well, to me, I could always line that up, kind of like fire service style, like timeline-wise, because somebody told me, it might have been one of my instructors originally with like SOAP, or when it was SOT or whatever, or I think it changed to SOT. I can't remember. Yeah. Either way, they changed the format somehow. Now we do L-chart, which is location, chief complaint, history, assessment, rendered care, and treatment. But that still kind of lines up timeline-wise. But anyways, my instructor told me, said, the basics, what you want to get across are tell them what you were told, tell them what you saw, tell them what you did. Right. And that, for the most part, lines up timeline-wise. So what were you dispatched for? Okay, this. And that might be, part of your subjective or, like, your location. And what you tell them what you were told, so that you're told to dispatch. Then you might get into, like, the history or part of subjective of, like, what the patient told you or what a bystander told you, if you have that much information. And then the next thing you encounter would be, like, your objective, or, like, their, what you saw, the assessment. So you had, like, what you saw, what you were told, what you saw, and then what you did, being like treatment or anything else, like you saw part of the assessment or whatever. So I could always kind of make that flow, like with a story in my mind, and I still do that, and my stuff might not fit perfectly in what they like, because I try to line it up with that, because you have like what you were told, so that might be subjective, but also when you're assessing the patient, they might tell you something too. So kind of that sometimes blends with mine, because it flows better. Like I'm assessing the patient. Patient said while I was assessing them, and I pressed on their abdomen, this hurts. So that's kind of a subjective thing, but it's also part of my assessment. So I guess if you really wanted to get into the specifics of it, I could put that in the subjective. But I feel like it's not going to flow very well and could be confusing. Where if it just made the sense of my assessment, when I pressed on the abdomen, this hurt. When I manipulated this, lower extremity, this hurt. That makes more sense to me. So I still, like fire service style, I guess, I try to make it a full story to fit within those metrics they want. And that just is easier for my brain. That's why the templates don't work that great for me. Yeah. Where I can just type the whole thing out like that, like a story. And the templates I've made or seen, they don't really speed up my process that much. AI might, I could tell AI, maybe if I prompted it of like, this is how I do things and whatever, I'm sure it could, but I would still have to reread it all and go through it fine tune where I could just type it. And
I'm just leery of all the AI stuff.
And I kind of feel like, is it going to make you too lazy to get rid of critical thinking? And
yes, I think it's going to hurt us down the road. I understand where it has its benefits. Yeah. Like my wife, we're talking about your pool. We just put in above ground pool, and we're talking about a deck and a layout, and I've got a little gazebo I wanted to incorporate and all this. And it was pretty funny because she took and put some stuff in Chat GPT and asked it, and another fireman that told me they done the same thing with laying out a flower bed and stuff. And it's pretty cool the way it'll come back and give you suggestions and actually show you a picture pretty close, and you're like, wow, that is amazing. So I mean, I do feel like that it has its advantages and its place. Yeah. But I'm with you. I feel like that it makes people lazy. Yeah. 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 And it does, I think, hurt their critical thinking.
Yeah. I remember one time, I kind of use it. I have ChatGPT on my phone, but I kind of use it more to ask questions on stuff that I can't really find a definitive answer for. Not that I truly trust it, but if the answer makes sense to me of what, if it can explain it to me in a way that makes sense, I can understand it. But sometimes it'll give you some crazy stuff. I don't ask it a question that I feel like I don't already know a partial answer to or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking for clarification of why this is this. And so I had a vent patient that had some weird numbers that I didn't understand with the vent. I was checking stuff. I was like, this isn't making sense. Why is it doing this? And it was just kind of like a small thing. And I took a picture of the vent screen. I'm like, hey, I got this going on. Why is it giving me this reading? Because I haven't even have the manual on my phone, but it's like 200 pages, and I'm like, I ain't got time for this. It was one of those things like was something I could have called somebody about. Probably, but how long is that going to take? And it wasn't like a severe problem like I need to contact med control. And I put it in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT explained to me real quick in like 30 seconds. I was like, mother trucker. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. And so I've used it for stuff like that. Of like, explain this to me, why is it doing this? And I think that's a good resource, but I don't think it needs to take away like all your critical thinking like, okay, I got this patient set up these vent settings for me. I don't think that would be good either.
Yes. I don't want it to get to where that's what everybody uses to tell them how to do everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's something odd to you or whatever and you're just like, I don't quite understand that, then sure. Yeah. I'm all for that.
Yeah. I don't think it needs to be a crutch.
No.
And that's the worry, and it can be translated into that so easily.
Well, I don't want it to become your mode of movement, period.
Yeah.
I just use it for everything.
Yeah.
What do you know then?
Yeah.
Other than how to say, ChatGPT, tell me this.
Yeah. What happens if you don't have cell service or whatever? You got to do it on your own. And like that case, it wasn't really a danger to the patient. It just clarified what it was going and something for me to look at. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's like Google. I mean, all of us I still use Google here or there. Or, hey, Google, how do you do this? Mm-hmm. And then I watch a YouTube video and like, hey, I can fix that now.
Nothing's funnier. They talk about the doctor stories. Like you tell a doctor you got a problem, you look over there and he's Googling it up. You're like, man, I could have done that.
Yes. Doc, what I need to take for this?
Yeah, let me go. I could be back in a few minutes.
I can give you so and so at this dose.
Yeah, it made me feel. Well, I don't want to say feel better. It made me feel less dumb. We had a patient with a specific congenital. Rare medical problem.
Yeah,
we took in, and I went to the hospital and I brought this person in. It was a problem I remember hearing of from paramedic school, but it was just one of those 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100,000 medical conditions. And I brought him in there, and I felt kind of dumb. I researched some of it on the way on my phone because this is something you don't encounter that much.
Right.
And I went in there to the hospital, and this is like a specialty center, and brought him in, and talked to the patient. And then we look over there, and the doctor is up on the computer, researching the disease process. And I was like, I was really upset about it. He's doing his research because it's probably something he hasn't seen a lot. But it made me feel better. I was like, they do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Which, more power to him. He's doing his research. But it's just kind of funny.
Research it and check it out.
Yeah.
I talked about Heather a little bit last time I was here. And that's part of what amazes me with her. She does wound care now. But, like infectious diseases and other things, just odd, rare disorders. Mm-hmm. She just instantly knows what they are.
Yeah.
Like we were watching some program or something on TV, and this person walked across the screen, and she looked down and she says, ooh, they got Morphan syndrome. And I was like, what are you talking about? She said, look at their extremities on their body, and all their extremities are extremely long.
Yeah.
All their limbs, their fingers, everything are extremely long. Mm-hmm. She said that's a normal sign of Morphan syndrome.
Yeah.
Or I think that's what it is. I don't know. It may not even be. But,
yeah, I've heard of it. None of those things I haven't thought about in a long time.
But it's just odd to me that she sees stuff and just knows what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
I guess if you do something long enough, you learn all the different stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's like, I had a nurse partner that was a former pediatric nurse, and I loved her whenever we had a pediatric patient because that stuff was common knowledge to her of like drug dosages and what we could do for his kids and all this stuff and the confidence she had. I was like, I'm glad
Yes.
I'm glad you're super confident. Not like my abilities aren't that great, but your confidence level and your familiarity is greatly appreciated.
Well, that's what I was telling you, like riding with some of y'all on the ambulance. You know, y'all's confidence and everything made me feel a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, people had said the same thing with me on the fire truck.
Yeah.
They said, look, you know, you're calm. You know what's going on. You'll cut up on. I would cut up with my crew on the way to a bad call. Mm-hmm. And like, how are you joking? We're on the way to a bad call. How are you sitting here joking? And I finally got them to understand, if I can keep you relaxed,
yeah,
you're going to be able to think when we get there.
Yeah.
If you stay uptight and tense all the way to the call, and you're already scared and nervous, when we get to the call and I start telling you stuff, you may not even hear half of what I say to you.
Yeah.
Because your mind is racing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if I can keep you calm and keep engaged with you, when we get there, we're still engaged. You're going to listen to what I tell you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it makes perfect sense. It works.
I'll tell new partners I have, or if I'm helping out in the base and I have a nurse I'm not familiar with or something, my partner, I was like, I'm really easy to work with. I was like, I don't really have much I'm particular about. There's a couple things, but it's nothing I can't deal with. I said, but I said, the one thing I hate, I said, is rushing. I said, there's a time for fast movement, and there's a time to move fast, but there's no time to panic. And I said, just to move fast. I said, if we need to move with purpose and expediency, we need to. But I'm not running around like a chicken with its head cut off because somebody else is.
Right.
I said, that I don't do that. I said, because it's going to make me miss stuff. And I know that about myself and probably everybody. I said, but I don't, and if it's something really critical, I'm, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Right.
And I said, if we need to move judiciously with purpose. I said, we can do that. But I said, I don't do the panic thing of, I said, I can't stand that. I said, I don't do that. I said, and I've learned that about myself. I can't do it.
On a fire scene, I need you to not run.
Yeah.
But I need you to move like you have a purpose to get it done.
Yeah.
Because I remember telling people to go get something off the truck, and they turn around and it's like, can you walk any slower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, we're really waiting on that tool, but can you walk any slower?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that would drive me absolutely crazy. Look, you have to move with a purpose.
Yeah.
You realize that most things that we do on time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, the one thing that we respond to that reverses is hazmat.
Mm-hmm.
I said, in a hazmat, you do nothing fast.
Yeah.
Everything is slow.
Yeah. And that's, that's like us. When we have like critical transfers, I'm like, we do not move fast. I was like, move with purpose, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I said, if somebody's barking orders at us, like a nurse or doc that's, very panicked, I said, just tell them, go tell them to get some paperwork or something. Get them out of the room if you want to.
Yeah.
I was like, because that's just going to slow down the process. And I've told, providers before, I was like, you're slowing the process down. I said, this is stuff that has to be done. I said, I'm not trying to be mean, but we do our thing. You do your thing, we do our thing. Mm-hmm. I said, if you want to help, that's great, but that is not you're not going to make us suddenly move faster. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you're going to make us miss something. Mm-hmm. And that's why, you got to keep a process. And I pretty much try to stay true to it. Sometimes you can't, especially scenes and stuff where you got to grab and go. Mm-hmm. You got to go. But you're not running. Right. You still have a minor process. You just might not go to the finer details because they have a bigger problem that you need to solve. That's this other smaller stuff, like the laceration of the hand. Okay, that's not nearly as bad as the, stab wound to the chest now, so to speak. Or just to put as a very general, basic example. But, what's the critical emergent problem they have? Okay, let's deal with that, So, but I don't know. That's about my own thing. And that probably comes from fire service, really. Like, because people panic. And you see those people panic. And I'm sure you've seen on an ambulance. You're like, calm down. Look, keep it back to basics. ABCs, whatever.
Or they're screaming to the point that you can't even understand what they said.
Yeah, and it makes
roll up and they're screaming on the radio, and you're like, what did they say they even have? I don't understand them.
Oh, and it's infectious, too. It's what I don't like. You can see other people getting panicked because they're panicked, whether it's providers or bystanders on scene. You're like, you have to control that. Wrap it up because you're making the situation worse.
And that initial on-scene report is critical for everybody responding with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You got to get it right.
Yeah, you got to be clear. and get it right. You know, because if you're sitting there blah, 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 and you're eating the microphone and nobody can understand you, you're like, what did they just say?
What did he say he wanted us to do? I didn't understand what he wanted from us.
Yeah.
I heard him say engine 4, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, can you repeat that? Yeah. And they do the same way.
yeah, repeat it the same way. Repeat it the same way. When I said repeat that, I didn't mean the exact way you just did that.
Yes. It's like, gosh, I still don't know what he wants.
And you always had those people, too, and it stands this day that just their tone, you can tell the severity of the incident. You know? I see. It don't matter what he said. I know I missed the specifics, but I can tell by his tone.
Well, I used to have people tell me is, look, if we hear any excitement in your voice in your own team report, it's bad.
Yeah.
I said, we're like, you can tell right off the rip if it's really bad.
Yeah.
Because you'll roll up to a pretty good scene and you're just, we got this. You know.
It would be interesting to see, talk to, Macon's, Atrium Navson, Major Trauma Center we fly to talk to one of her dispatchers up there. Or, there's always, the same kind of one or two ladies that answer the radio. It'd be interesting to talk to her, hear about reports that get called in and, the differences and, or if somebody knew me, I'd like to hear what they say, like I sound like. Because, I'm sure you sound a lot calmer in your head than you really are. But I try to keep it brief and concise for the most part. But, sometimes, you're just like, all right, this is the biggest problem we got. This is all we got. Okay, this is what we got. Meet us there.
Well, it's funny because I remember being at stations over the years, and you have certain people that get dispatched to a call, and you're like, I'm not leaving the room. I got to hear him when he gets on the scene.
I'd be interested to see too, or talk to one of those dispatchers at the hospitals, because I always try to have a good attitude. And it was where were we going? I'm trying to remember where we were going the other night. I don't even remember where we were going, but we were going to the hospital, and the person answered the radio, and they gave him a report. And I said, they said, whatever. All right, we'll see you up top. And I said, all right, love you, bye. And then, the nurse replied, did you just say love you, bye? I said, yeah, you got to make them laugh.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, I always got to have a little fun, throw something in there.
Yeah, you got to have fun.
I don't make it too unprofessional. I'm not, but I think that is I think that's all right.
Yeah, you got to have, that's what I'm saying. I joke with people on the way to a call, with them, pick at people just to relax them. Mm-hmm. Just make the job more fun.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I don't know. It's funny to me with report stuff, too, because I've been calling in reports for so long. It's just second nature to me. But you have, a brand new nurse who's used to receiving reports and not getting us. What did I tell him? I was like, just tell him what we saw. And that's why I tell them same thing like report. Mm-hmm. What were we told? What did we see? What did we do? That's it. I said, that's the basics. I said, now there's a lot in there. You might get it. But if you forget, a blood sugar, if it wasn't pertinent, that's fine. I said, if you miss anything pertinent, they'll ask you.
They'll ask you. Yeah.
Now, if you come back and they ask you for 5 things, you probably could have done better. Yeah. I said, but, sometimes you got a lot of stuff you've done and you forget. It's no big deal. So just tell them what you saw or told.
Most of them are filling out on a chart.
Yeah.
They've got a little cheat sheet, and they're filling it out as you call it out. Mm-hmm. So if they got a blank, then it's like, oh, what about so-and-so? What was the blood?
Look, talking about that, I'll tell you a funny thing about Macon one time. They always have to have on their, sheet or whatever of the patient's GCS, and if you're bringing in a scene, they'll ask, is any decon needed? Mm-hmm. And so it got to such a point where they'd always come back and ask me that, which seemed kind of obvious of none of this report made it. Okay, the patient's conscious in alert talking to me. Okay, I didn't tell you GCS is 15, but I thought I told you enough. But anyways, it's just their box. They got to check. And so we had whatever scene patient. I don't remember what GCS was said, but it's, I started off for a while there. All my reports, I would just say they're GCS and no decon needed, just so I get that out of the way and then give my report. And I told him, hey, GCS, whatever, no decon needed. we show up top, and everybody up front top is wearing Tyvek suits. And I said, what are y'all doing? They said, you said decon was needed. I said no decon was needed. And they're like, oh man, taking all off. So that got the point where I would say, instead of saying no decon was needed, I would go negative for decon. Yeah. So it was clear because I guess the no got cut off. So I was like, yeah, let's make this more clear. Right. Negative for any decon. But yeah, there was like 3 people up. They were like Tyvek suits because they thought they're going to have to rinse them off or whatever. And and it was hot. It was summer too. I felt bad for them. And I was like, what are y'all doing? I was in like an infectious patient. Well, they said they need a decon. I was like, no, they don't. Oh, cool. So I got him with it accidentally.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. So. Well, I see you checking your watch. You got to get out of here.
Well, I've just had my phone constantly. My wife was trying to call me a while ago, and she don't call me very often from work.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, my wife texted me a couple times.
Yeah, I should probably check in with her.
Yeah. Well, we've been going about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad I got to get you in here and talk some more.
Oh, yeah.
I love hearing you talk.
We can just sit here and talk forever. It's
oh,
just
for
how
real?
It is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you invited me back.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you back,
I like what you're doing. I think it's great.
Well, good. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm trying to get more people on. I don't have anybody else lined up right now, but I got to make a couple phone calls. I kind of had a few people all lined up there and everything. Now summer's here, so I got more free time.
I mean, sometimes it makes it, because I reminded my wife last night. She said, "Oh God, I forgot all about that." She said, "Seems like y'all set that up way back." I said, "It does seem like it was way back, but it got here quick."
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah, it's going fast. Well, I appreciate it. No problem. I've told people, I said I love talking to these people, and they're, I guess my little podcast, whatever here I'm doing is. I mean, it's definitely not big, but I bump into people. Hey, man, I listened to your podcast to this person. I like that. And it's kind of interesting to me. Like, I'm bumping into people now that are quite a few within our realm. We have a small EMS around this, is a small circle, but it's been interesting.
But, it branches out like everything.
Yeah.
The more people that got talking about it and they run into somebody else, man, you're listening to this guy's podcast. Well, send me the link.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think it's such a, I don't want to say untapped resource, but I feel like it's a generational knowledge that's going to disappear.
Yeah.
And I just love, hearing the stories and like even the stuff we're talking about, the call boxes. That's so interesting to me. And I'm sure anybody that's been doing like, 3-year firefighter right now, they might not even know about those.
Right. Never know that's how it used to be. Yeah.
And that's so interesting. Like I didn't know how they were fully set up. I heard about them, but I was asking about like how the dispatch work and stuff. I didn't know that. And these questions I wouldn't really have thought about until you said that, And that's just interesting stuff to me that, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like that's a knowledge that's going to disappear.
History.
Yeah, the history that's going to be gone. But anyways, I'm glad you came.
Part
2.
Yes.
Eventually I'll have you back on again, I'm sure.
No problem. All right. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.